is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Friday Night Debate, we're going to be debating the following. Should the Joseph Newman Boakai government, number one, audit the WIA government? Number two, implement the TRC or establish or support the establishment of a war crimes court? And should the JNB government reopen the mysterious death cases, especially involving the auditors? We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Before I introduce my debate panelists, we'd like to play this sound from the cultural ambassadors to introduce the debate tonight. Thank you and welcome. Let me welcome to the debate tonight the host of G Talk, Glendy Jean. She's been supporting Joseph Newman Boakai in this runoff, and now it looks like she's on her way. Glendy, did you make the transitional team? No, I'm
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. No, I did not.
Let me welcome Mr. Jimmy Eastman. He's co-host here and also a political analyst right here on Focus on Liberia. Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be alive at this time in Liberia's historic awakening and transitioning. I'm glad that you invited me. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mrs. Welly Alice Moba. Alice, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure being here to discuss Liberia, trying to find a solution to have a good country. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to also welcome Mr. Mohammed Sharif, a FOL political analyst, and he always likes for us to add that he's a proud product of Waplo Institute, all the way from Kilipo Kanweke in River G County. Welcome, Mr. Sharif.
Thank you, Dennis, for this elaborate intro. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Let me welcome J. Victor Nambwe, a former UP, no, He's a UPP partisan who supported the CPP during the election. Mr. Nambwe is a panelist here. Welcome, Mr. Nambwe. On mute, please.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the statistician, the MAV Genius project lead, Mr. Kalebo Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo was CDC leaning in the roundup election. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Dennis. I'm a proud product of Semiris High School in San Nicolas, Nema County.
Thank you. And
That's
then
good.
the proud product of Basel High is the unabashed and unapologetic sedition, Mr. Jerome Gaiman. His side lost in the roundup. Welcome, Mr. Gaiman.
Absolutely. Baza High School reigns supreme, and a proud supporter of the greatest president ever, Dr. George Mane Bekube Seguze Wia. Opon Wia. Our supporter. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Let me welcome another supporter, Mr. Elvis Morris. Mr. Morris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. And since we're talking about schools, I'm a product of Sotelmo Institute on 19th Street. That's my childhood school right there. So shout out to Sotelmo. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. And whenever Mr. Elvis Morris is not on the show, he's always, most of the time, the first caller. Last and definitely not the least, let me welcome my co-host for the night. Since we are talking about audit, who else can co-host this besides Telvina, the well-rounded Telvina? You talk about auditing, she's there. Cybersecurity, she's there. Nursing, she's there. Telvina is glad to have you on the show. On mute, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dennis. The pleasure is always mine.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across this globe. If you have not done so already, please share the show and invite a friend. So, let's start like this. The first thing we want to talk about that has been trending is show Joseph Newman Boakai, or the Joseph Newman Boakai government audit the WIA government. That's the first thing we want to be. And so, before I bring in Telvina to kind of lay certain things out about auditing, let me put some definition on the board. So an audit is a form of investigation intended to examine financial statements, management accounts and reports, accounting records, operational reports, revenue reports, and expense report. For the purpose of our topic tonight, we want to concentrate mainly on financial audit, where the auditor will analyze the fairness and accuracy of a business's financial statements, review transaction procedures, and balances to conduct a financial audit. So sometimes we confuse audit and investigation. So we want to lay that out. The main difference between an audit and an investigation is that an audit is a systematic examination of financial statements to ensure accuracy and compliance, whereas an investigation is a thorough inquiry into a specific matter to uncover facts and identify potential wrongdoing. So that's just to set the premise. So should the Joseph Newman Boakai government audit the WIA government? Let me send it to my co-host Telvina to give us more basis on this whole thing with auditing. Telvina, anything that you want to just add and clarify? We don't want nuances tonight. We want our debaters to be very clear that we are talking about auditing the financial of this government. Go ahead, Telvina.
Okay. Well, if you say that this should audit the financial, should stick to financial audit, then let's narrow the scope to that. But I personally don't think they should do only financial audit. But I get it where it's all everybody talking about. We want to find out the financial health of the country, and so this big push about audit is all, everybody talking about asset recovery audit and all of that, but it's deeper than that. But if for this discussion, if we want to talk about financial health, yes, let's talk about financial audit, because it will tell us where we are and at least point out to where we're going, right? At least give an overview of where we're going. So let's get the ball rolling.
So let's go around the room here now. I want to just we can be as brief as possible. And the answer: should the JNB government, that's the incoming government, audit the outgoing we are government? Yes or no, and why? Let me start with Alice at my right next to me, Mrs. Mova.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Definitely, if a new government is taking over, and the outgoing government will have to give, account of what was done. Um, Whatever question that is there to be answered, they will be in position through the auditors to uncover other things that are not clear to the incoming leadership. So I think it's a good thing, to go through that.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah, absolutely, Dennis. Thank you. Look, the fact that we're even debating, right, as to whether this incoming government should audit the outgoing government, should tell us how far, we're falling as a country. This is par for the course, as Ms. Mola indicated. That is the normal practice. Every outgoing government, that's what the whole transition is about. You are to take an inventory of the entire operations, your government assets, and turn over to the incoming government. Now, that incoming government has a responsibility to compare what you're turning over to them to what they are actually receiving, and that is an audit. I like to go further to say that what is needed here is not just a financial audit. I think a forensic audit is in order. An investigation of the characters of the actors that are leaving government, and this cannot just be this outgoing government. It is something that we should institutionalize as a country. So I think an audit is in order.
Thank you, Mr. Gonglo.
Well, Dennis, I would say this. I think to limit this to a financial audit, I think that would be so grossly limited, because several ministries, as far as I know, they do not keep private account. They keep account with central bank. So I mean, if you look at, they could just go to central bank and look at the government balances, and they will see it right there. That's financial.
So what you advise?
And what have you. But here is what I would say. I think we are in a moment, just that we were in a moment in 2006. In 2006, we are at a moment where Liberia needed to get it right, and we missed it. We needed to start the TRC. We needed to sound the war crime code at the beginning of 2006 and get it right. We missed it. This is another moment of transition that there's high hope there. And I think, like what Bwaga people have said, because I never heard Bwaga throughout the campaign to say what he would do. But what most of his spokespeople said during the campaign, that he will audit, he will that. Here is what my counter proposal will be. My proposal is not audit. I think President-elect Bwaga should actually should set up a commission of inquiry to look into the wealth, the accumulation of, for the past 18 years, from 2006 to present, of those who serve in cabinet position, those who serve in, I would say, official of government. It can be director, it can be assistant director. They are considered by definition official of government. Let's look into their wealth, their accumulation, because we know their salary and we know how much they make. Even if they work for 18 years, some of them cannot they cannot accumulate some of what they have. So I think that's the right way to begin, because audit is grossly limited, and I think it will just be missing a boot right here. It will be like window dressing to have another new devil in town to cheat, to eat our money. That's what I would say.
Right. So I'm not an auditor, but from what I read, it starts with the audit. It starts with that, and it gives rise to investigation and the rest of it based on what they're going to find. So let's say we do an audit and we find something, we say, okay, let's go after this. So while the audit will be broad, the investigation will pinpoint specifically where to go. So you are right. So if you feel free to step outside financial audit if you want to bring that in.
No, but Dennis, your question, I mean, I think the proposition is to audit the outgoing administration. I am countering that we should have 18, look at 18 years activities of those who serve in public service.
Oh, 18 years.
Who have stolen money and become big farmers in Liberia overnight as a means of cleaning their money.
Right. So yes or no. So the outgoing government should be audited. You are saying yes.
I'm saying we should not audit. We should have a commission of inquiry to look into the activities of those who serve for 18 years, for the past 18 years, those who serve in public space.
No.
I think what he's asking for is a lifestyle audit in a way.
Yeah. So let me bring it back.
Inclusive.
Right. But I'm saying what that term what you just described, board of commission, I still say let's for the purpose of the debate, let's take it as audit. You were saying let's audit. I'm asking you, should that be done to the administration? Yes or no?
It should be done to all. Dennis, here is a question. Let me.
But tell me yes before you say all.
The act creating a general auditing commission has a limitation. When you leave government after 5 years, if the government cannot audit you, cannot bring charges against you, there is statute of limitation on that. The GSC has lost power.
And that's why I didn't want to go there. That's why I want to limit the scope of the discussion.
The act creating the GSC. So that's why I think we should have a different mechanism that look at the 18 years as opposed to the past.
Right. So forget. Let's say we are not discussing 18 years. We are discussing just Should the outgoing government audit the government? Yes or no?
Of course, they should audit.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman.
Yes.
Should the Bwaka government audit the government?
As always, I know you're looking for a yes or no answer, and I'm going to give it to you. But most of the folks on here, I can tell, have never been audited. And as we sit here, I am being audited as we speak from the federal government because I get federal and state monies. Auditing is required when the state comes to audit me. Let's say my budget is $5 million. They are coming to audit me for the $5 million that were given to me. They are coming to audit what I did with their money, whether I stay within the boundaries as written by the contract. They cannot come and say, we are coming to audit the $5 million, but we're also going to audit where you got your bands and all of that. That's not how it works. They come to me first. They get all of my bank, they reconcile all, they give me some paper that I sent to all my financial institutions, and the financial institution communicate directly with them. My bookkeeper and my accountant sends all of my expenditure, everything to them, and then they reconcile that and do an audit. If anything is out of whack, I am held accountable. So there is no auditor that will come. For instance, if the Liberian government have a $700 million budget, they are coming to audit $700 million. Nothing beyond that they are going to. Anything else is a whole different thing. So we got a lot of folks here who have never been audited. They don't know what audit is, and they're all over the place. If Liberia has a budget of $700 million, that's why they are coming to audit. And if it's over 6 years, it is $700 million over 6 years. Nothing more, nothing less. Those who are audited, you have been audited, you know what I'm talking about. So yes, they need to audit because that's what the system calls for. You have to give an account of money within your budget.
So,
Mr. Morris. Oh,
no. So auditing doesn't only cover money. It also covers people, your processes, data, and all of that. So we shouldn't, not only for this discussion, think that auditing is only about money. Come to audit how much money they give you. No, it's more than that. So I just wanted to bring that in.
With all due respect, they cannot audit what you are not accounted for. If you are given $700 million, they are going to audit you for $700 million.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not
I guess the
disagreeing.
issue is scope. What's the
I'm
scope,
not
right?
disagreeing with that they cannot go beyond what they didn't give. What I'm saying is that audit is not just money. You audit the process, they audit the people, they audit even the data.
What do
You
you mean?
audit system.
What do you mean, people? They're going to audit my employees?
All right.
The people responsible, the people you put in charge, including you, responsible for handling different operations and all of that.
Miss, I disagree with you. You're
right.
totally missing the point.
Okay, let me give you one
You're coming to me,
example.
Mr. Jai. You're coming to me. So
Let me give you one example. Let me just be practical. Say, for example, and I no longer do that, but when just if I work still auditing for the state or whatever state, because I've done it for 2 different states, and I go to audit a state or a school district, I will audit not only the money, but I'm also looking at whoever in charge of that money. So if you're in charge of that money, I have to audit you as well and ask you some question and see how you spend that money that you're overseeing. So it's not just the money.
Mr. Venner, that's totally wrong. That's not how it
well, we
works.
can agree that some audits are limited in scope. Some audits are limited in scope. I think that's what Mr. Gilman is talking about.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. Let me go to Glenn, I want to talk to
No,
Glenn.
you're coming to me, Mr. Jai.
I'm
Don't
going to
switch.
skip you and go to Glendy because she's about to leave. I just want Glendy to give her. Glendy is here already because of some reason she can continue. She can be here, so she's leaving. So I just want to get her take before she leaves.
Glendy is always running away.
Kellewu, it's good to see you. I've missed you a lot, and I acknowledge that you've missed me also by your comments. But I also want to say sometimes we have to be careful how we address one another because you don't know what I know, and I don't know what you know. And I'm specifically referencing Mr. Gaiman's comment when he says some of you don't even know what an audit is. I think that's unacceptable to say that to.
Ms. Glendy, have you been audited by the federal government?
Unacceptable to say that to.
Have you been audited by the
people
federal
here
government?
because you don't know anybody. You don't know anybody educational background. You don't know anybody level. So you can't just come and say some of you on here don't even know what an audit is. You don't know my experience. You don't know anybody else's here experience. I take that as an exception, and we should not allow that. We should be able to be cordial and respectful to one another and hold people at a higher esteem. So that's unacceptable for me. And yes, Dennis, like Telfi said, there's a whole scope of practicing auditing. There's a whole lot of stuff that you have to do. Depending, I think the Paika government should audit the WIA government. I think they should first set up a committee that's going to be strategic in deciding on which areas of the government they're going to audit or what they're going to look at. And I think that audit should be conducted. And then if they find whatever they find and they think there's issues, I think it needs to be investigated. And if subsequently they find that they need to extend to additional years, like Kellewu is saying, they can also do that. So that would be my comment to that.
Thank you, Glendy.
Thank you.
And Glendy is right. The federal government is not the only place people that audit people, right? Right now, even anyway. So Mr. Morris, let's welcome Mr. Thomas B. Cannon. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Evis, should the Waka government audit the WIA government?
Yes, I think absolutely they should audit the WIA government. But what I will say is, for those those people who support this incoming government, who the UP partisans, the Mo Alis, who have been making habitually
Evis, let me hear your opinion on this first. Why you want to Mo Ali then?
No. This is the point I'm making, right?
Right.
They should be audited, right? But the issue here, we've changed the goalposts because what these guys were saying is they're going to put the ministers and people in the WIA administration in jail, and that's the point that I'm trying to make. So we got to separate, a financial audit, from a criminal investigation that's going to lead to people going in, going to jail. And the point I'm trying to make is that once you audit and you find there are some, financial improprieties, then you have the, like let's say the GSC or the LACC who will have the, prosecutorial, uh, uh, what's the word?
Power.
Power. That's another word I was looking. Discretion. They'll have prosecutorial discretion, right? Whether or not to move forward with it. And I think that would be the most important point in this whole thing because if there are people who, quote unquote, stole monies or did some things that was improper, then you have the GSC or the Ministry of Justice, whoever have that power to prosecute. They'll have to show discernment because they'll be like, okay, if we do this, this country is already divided, and if we go after this person, it could be seen as a witch hunt. It could cause uproar. But just financially auditing the government, the past government, it's fine. I'm okay with that. But when you're talking about putting people in jail, that's when you have to use prosecutorial discretion. And I think that's where we want to see how Boyka is going to move forward with that. For all these people who are making, jejune statements about how to pull, we are in jail, we're coming, we'll lock you up, we'll seize everything that you took. That's what we want to see when the rubber hits the road. If they're going to actually go through with, seizing people properties, putting people in jail, something that we didn't do to the alien administration, that's when we're going to know what Boyka is made of. So the audit should happen, but then putting people in jail is another level, and that could cause chaos. So let's see how it goes.
What if the audit
Dennis,
finds
can I come in for a minute? Can I come in for a minute?
You see, that's it.
Hold on, let me just understand from Elvis. What if the audit finds something? Because we're talking about audit, and then the next step will be investigation. And so if the audit finds something, or it should just be, you look at it and pass.
That's what I said. That's when prosecutorial discretion comes into play. Because if you look at the country and you say, okay,
not prosecution yet, but you see
no,
right? So you send it for further investigation, right?
That's what I'm saying. You can investigate all you want, but when it comes down to it, you have to make a call whether or not to charge this person criminally or whether or not to use prosecutorial discretion. That's the point that I'm making because for certain people, that prosecuting them is going to cause some uproar. You're going to have people who might want to get in the street. There might be some violence. So you gotta be smart about it. That's the point that I'm making. So if you're going to set a precedent now with this weird government, because I can't remember the last government outside of Julie Bryan, who was an interim president, so he was kind of he was not as strong as elected president. Where Ellen put him in jail. Some people think it caused him a premature death. This and that took monies from him. And so, and so on and so forth. When we came to power and tried to prosecute her son, Charles Salif, she was in uproar. She took the blame for everything because she felt like she had some immunity as a president. So nothing can happen to her. She absorbed the blames for her children, financial impropriety in the country. So that's where I think it's going to get tricky. If Boyka wants to prosecute, he's going to have to deal with the consequences that might come with it. So that's the point that I'm making.
Thank you. Mohammed.
It's very interesting that this man will usually use threats anytime George Weah is mentioned. This is very troubling. You cannot, in your analysis, usually go down this route. Oh, there will be riots. There will be this. On another show, he said we will see. I mean, what do you mean by we will see? Are you sitting down here on the government's largesse? What is going on? This is unacceptable for me. Yes, the answer for me is yes, but you cannot use the process to witch hunt. I think I learned something on our last show. Carl was on here. Kabina Janet, Justice Janet was on here. And I learned a lot from their expose on this issue. The government, the incoming government, should look at the applicability, the policy, or how they handle all this in the previous government and work with it. Because one of the things that, and I know once they do that, follow the evidence, I know that they're not going to find much work that the Weah administration did. They didn't do anything, I don't think. They didn't do any audit of that government. So the incoming administration is not going to find anything that the government did. First of all, this president did not declare his asset. He should have done that. None of his officials declared their asset. They should have done that. And before I forget, I just want to go back to something Jerome said. He said that, you know, nobody on here has ever been audited but me. Well, you don't know everybody. I work for state government. I declare what we call financial disclosure, annual financial disclosure, which means every year my employer has to know what is going on, who are my creditors, who do I owe. Okay, so I disclose annually. George Weah has not disclosed anything to the Liberian people. My agency is audited by the feds. So when you're making these statements, you know, I respect you as a host. I think you do a good job. So, you know, but sometimes, you know, guys like yourself and Elvis, you know, let this George Weah thing get to your head. I mean, George Weah. You know, so,
Mr. John, let me just clarify. I want him to finish his statement before I interrupt it. Please let me just clarify. Give me 10 seconds, please.
You have the chance.
All right.
Thank you.
So the answer then is yeah. So if you know, if they find anything, you know, you cannot weaponize it. You cannot use this as a witch hunt. But if they find anything, yes, by all means. You heard Alio the other day. Guys like Alio supported this government, supported Boakai for this very reason. So Boakai will be losing much needed support from a part of that coalition if he doesn't go that route. You heard Alio emphatically say that.
Thank you. And Mr. Sherry, you started by saying addressing Elvis as this man. So let's be very cordial to one another and address each other accordingly. Just so
Dennis,
that we keep.
Dennis, here's the thing. I would like for I'm a very professional person, and I pick my words very carefully. And I would like for this to go across the board, though. When Elvis is on here, he just launched a lot of accusations, false accusations and stuff like that. When he's not on here, behind the scenes.
You're projecting, Mohammed. You're projecting.
Right?
I don't launch any accusations on anyone.
He's writing a lot on his Facebook. He's calling people all kinds of names. Dennis, this guy has denigrated a lot of people. I'm surprised.
Not true. I'm not even on Facebook. That's how I know you're lying. I'm not even on Facebook. I don't have a.
Excuse me. When he called in and denigrated Madela Cooper, an accomplished woman. I mean, this is something that he has to be punished tonight. He was supposed to be punished for this, but he wasn't.
Mr. John,
I want him at 10 seconds, please, to clarify.
We are not even going around everybody yet, and I know you have people want to interject. I've not talked to Jimmy and Thomas, but people wanted to interject before you, so let me go to Caleb for his 30 seconds, Morris, and then Gaiman. Caleb,
and I want 30 seconds, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Dennis, just what I wanted to say is that I think there are some facts about audit process in Liberia. Some people have not had public sector experience in Liberia, so I think we need to lay this out. I'm happy that Thomas is here, who has experience with Governance Commission. The GAC, I mean, if you just go to GAC website, the way the audit is done is there. The auditee and the GAC people they have their recommendations, they have post-audit, whatever they do there. And that report is sitting there. By process, that report goes to the legislature. The public affairs, so there's a whole process. I don't even want to bore myself to that. But if the LACC found something that they want to do, they can even commission their own investigation into that. It is from recommendation from the Public Account Committee, goes to the president, and then to the Ministry of Justice. GSC can't even just do audit while the audit report is right there. Then the Ministry of Justice just jump there and say, I'm going. No, It is the whole clearing process go through. Then the other thing I want to do is I want to just point out is, you know, our financial document, our budget, most bulk of our expenditure, but 60% is actually in procurement. We are procuring our things. So the PPCC has procedure. Saying the PPCC does not have staff like GSC to go all around the country. When GSC is doing audit, they also do procurement audit to see whether you follow the procedure you made. If you're supposed to make 14 days announcement for this amount, because there are different categories of cost of goods and services. You must make an announcement maybe for one more, or this is qualified for international competitive bidding or local. I mean, it's a whole round on stuff, right? So we can just jump here and say, oh, GSC will do this. So that's why some of us have a counter proposal to this whole debate, because I know there's limitation in the process.
Thank you. Evans, your 30, Gonglo, that was more than 1 minute. So please, let's limit it to 30 seconds.
Thank you.
When you started, 30 seconds.
Right. Thank you. First of all, to respond to Mr. Sharif, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not active on Facebook. That's why even on our Facebook, group chat, I'm not in there because I'm not active on Facebook. So anything that you try to ascribe to me that I posted on Facebook, denigrating anybody, is just flat out false. I haven't been on Facebook, I think, since 2017 or something like that. Second of all, President Weah declared his assets. He just didn't publish it. So he did declare his asset. You can go back and look at it. And then lastly, I didn't make any threats. What I said was Boycott or his Ministry of Justice or the GSC or the LCC will have prosecutorial discretion, and they will have to decide whether it's in the best interest of the nation to prosecute former Weah official, even the president, and they will have to make that decision if it's expedient to do so. So I wasn't making any threats. I wasn't calling anybody out. So please, let's just clarify that. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I mean, what he was responding to is if they prosecute, there may be a backlash. That's what you're alluding to.
There may be, and we can all agree on that. Don't we think it could be? But it's not making threats. That's saying there will be. I say it could be.
We are not talking prosecution tonight. Let's stay with the audit. Let me go to Tavina. You wanted to chime in briefly.
I think Mr. Kennable made my point for the most part. Everyone's keep saying there'll be a backlash or something going to happen, which is sort of like I won't say threatening, but kind of putting fear in people for them not to do what they're supposed to do. The auditors will do what they have to do, and that's their place, to give a fair and objective opinion. And then the government, the whoever responsible can decide to say we're going to persecute. It's on them. You cannot say I'm not going to write the report in a certain way or disclose the findings because it's going to wish on George Weah. If George Weah wasn't stealing money and his people they were not stealing money, have no fears. There will be zero finding, and the case closed and they move to something else. So I think it's the idea of auditing should be welcoming, because it's not only just to catch people as most people think, but just to see if you're in compliance, you're doing what you need to do, and investigation do not always come out of audit. Investigation can go on as well as the same time audit is going on. I've seen it before. Just because, even though Mr. Gaiman said we know nothing about auditing, we've never been audited. I haven't been audited, but I've been that one auditing people for almost 10 years. So I know auditing. I've worked internal audit. I've been on the other side. I've worked for governments, past state, past federal. I will be that person coming to audit you, Mr. Gaiman. So, but we don't boast and brag about these things. But we've seen it on both sides of the aisle.
Mr. John, can I get my 30 seconds?
Right. And yes, there's a reason they call me the well-rounded. So don't take me for granted.
So we move on.
Your 30 seconds, Mr. Gaiman.
The reason I'm asking here, and let us be very clear, let everybody say it, who as a head of an agency here have been federally and statewide audited? Let them put their hands up.
Why is this important, Mr.
Is that part of the discussion tonight?
Listen.
He has an intimate relationship with auditing, so let the man give you an experience.
I'm asking who on here that have been audited by the state and the Fed as an agency head?
No, but
But
that's not.
I've been
No,
that one
Mr.
coming to
Dennis
audit
Job,
you.
Mr. Dennis
No,
Job, I'm
it's
asking a
not.
question.
No, it's not. It's
Anybody
not.
on here,
It's
has
not. It's
anybody
not.
on
It's
here
not
been
important.
audited as a head of an agency by the federal government or the state government? Because
No,
Well,
I do
I've
it
been
every
that
year.
federal and state agent coming to
It's
audit
not
the business. Sorry
relevant.
about that.
It is relevant because
Mr. Gaiman,
yes, no, Mr.
Let's
Job,
move on. Let's
Mr.
Mr.
move
Job,
on.
Gaiman,
yes.
when I work in the group home,
You don't have to
DPW
be
will come there.
audited to know what
Listen,
you're talking
listen,
about.
Yeah.
listen. You
Hold
go
on,
ahead.
Mr. Gaiman, it's not relevant. When I work in the
Well,
group
it
home,
does
hold
because
on
I
now.
signed the $5 million
Yes,
contract,
but
and I'm responsible for it. So I'm audited by the Fed. If you have gone through that process, then you understand. If you have not, if you want to work for agencies,
Dennis, this is diversionary. They don't want us to talk about George Weah. I cannot do this. I
there you
cannot
go.
do
So
this.
obviously,
They
most
don't
of
want
you
us
have
to talk
not,
about
no.
George Weah.
you
I
have not
can't
been
do this.
audited, so you don't
I
know the
cannot
process.
do this.
Let's
This
make
is
let's make progress.
thank you. Let me
Is
go to
it
Jimmy.
relevant? Because everybody here on this, they're professionals. They've been in their workplace where
I
auditors
said,
come
as
to
a
audit
head
their
of an
agency.
agency, have you been
All right.
audited? The question
Okay.
is
Is it
no.
relevant?
So
You alone,
you have
Mr.
never
Gaiman.
been audited.
All right. Let me go
Yeah,
to Jimmy.
just go ahead, Judge.
Let's
We are
move
still
on.
on it.
Yeah, let's Jimmy.
Wow. Very interesting discussion. Okay. So
Should we are
I
government
hear
be
that,
audited?
whenever people want to do something, me as a solution analyst, I always want to know why you want to do it, because sometimes what you want to do is not going to accomplish your aim. So you tell me what you want to do, and sometimes I'll ask you why. I went there because we're talking about audit. Are we trying to establish in this audit? One thing we can be clear of, that our standards have been broken or compromised. We don't see the adherence of law. We mentioned it casually, but we don't see enough adherence to law. We don't see enough transparency. We have a law on the books that says people should declare their assets. We don't see this. So now, if this administration is coming in to reestablish integrity in our institutions, and that is why they're throwing these words around, because I've heard it mentioned several times during the campaign that they will retrieve this ill-gotten money for any individual. So if the aim is to do that, then what we will need is called a special type of audit. Okay, it's called a forensic audit, because what you want to do is first you want to identify fraud. If any is being carried out, you want to determine the period in which it occurred. You want to know how it might have been concealed. You want to know the names of the perpetrators, right? And then of course, you want to quantify the loss and the result of the fraud. And then this information, when you do a forensic audit, that information is well secured, because it has to be admissible in court if you want to proceed with that. So if the government wants to start this, if the intention is to reinstate integrity in all our institutions, then definitely they should do a forensic audit. However, for me, if you had declared that you were going to do all of this, and then in your administration you don't do it, then I will have to conclude that you were not serious about reestablishing integrity in our institutions. That's how I look at it.
So Jimmy, should the Buckeye government audit the We Are government? Yes or
Not
no?
just an audit, a forensic audit. It's a completely different type of audit.
Yeah, but don't you think that forensic will be like a second or third step? You first want to do. I'm looking at it like you first want to do it. What I would say, if you do a system, right? You want to look for what is there, what
Okay.
happened.
Okay, but we have auditing systems yearly. The government
Right.
audits itself
So
every
one
year.
of the reasons is maybe so a new government is coming in. We saw that with the We Are government when they say, well, there is nothing left. The coffers are empty, right? and perhaps what DAC or the other auditors have done, maybe it may be compromised, and all sorts of things, right? So that's what we're saying. To start from a point, should the Baka government audit the WIA government?
Okay, let me put it this way. We have established there's going to be an audit this year, whether or not the government always audit. But if you want to go further than that,
no, I mean auditing WIA. I'm not talking about auditing the Baka.
No, I think the whole government should. No, not just WIA. No.
I mean
It should be.
government. I'm talking about WIA government, not WIA as a person.
Okay, but that's why I said they should do a forensic audit on the administration and all the institutions.
The issue is with the type of audit.
Yeah, because we already got audit. You know, it's not that we don't have tools, Dennis. We do have tools, but for some reason now the tools are not working. Why? And a lot of times the reason the tools are not working, when the information is gathered, nothing is done with it, or it's not done at all. So if you really want to go after this thing, you have to go after with a more defined process that will secure the evidence that you can go further into court and prosecute if necessary. But all those tools are already there. When the WIA government came to power, all the accusations they had against Sirleaf government, they were Sirleaf government's own reports. They didn't do any special audit on them. They just went after the reports that were made by the various integrity institutions, and that's all they had to do, go after. So it's not like they're not going to be already our integrity institution unless they haven't been done and doing the work. But there will be audits. There will be some information on file. But if that's not enough to prosecute anybody, and if your intention is to clean house, then I would say you have to do this thoroughly in a way that will correctly put things in place.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Dennis. This whole issue of audit is part of our public financial management system. And like I think on the previous program we're discussing, audit is a routine process of our PFM processes in Liberia. So it shouldn't be something very strange when the name audit is called in the government. I think what is a little interesting here is that a new government is coming and people are calling on the new government to audit the outgoing government, which is almost like a whole of government audit. Audit the entire process to see why you are inheriting. And to me, if that is the issue, then there are a couple of things that will have to be considered before you take any action on this. One is the issue of the cost. Audit itself has a cost associated with it. If you want to do a whole of government audit, does the GAC have the capacity to be able to do it? Or will they have to go out to regional auditing agencies to request them to support them if you want an audit to be done over a short period of time? The other issue is that there are institutions and there are processes that have been recently audited. For instance, the GAC audited the domestic debt. Do you want to redo that, considering the fact that it was just completed? I think 1 or 2 years ago, they also did the payroll audit. Do you want to redo everything that has been done? Or do you want to do a scoping mission where you take all of the existing audits and see where the gaps are to be able to focus them on the audit? And then the next issue, like Mr. Ismail is discussing, is what type of audit do you want to conduct? Is it a financial audit or a compliance audit? Because to me, much of the things that happened over the past 5 years were compliance related. For instance, the RIA rule, for instance, we can clearly lay our hands on any procurement process that went into that rule. So there could be procurement related issues there. So I think the incoming government needs to go back to their closet and actually decide on what they want to do. Do you want to audit? What is the nature of the audit you want to conduct? Is it a financial audit? Is it a comprehensive audit? Or you just want to review the process? But to me, it is important for something to be done. One, to be able to establish some ownership of assets that have been created over or developed over the past 5 years. Because, for instance, we saw many of the assets that were invested in. President Weah said, this is my project. The sport park, for instance, who owns it? President Weah is now leaving. Who's going to manage that park? Is it going to be turned over to the city corporation to raise revenue from there? Because we can't just put money into those resources and we allow them to sit and get rotten. So if it is state money that went into building of the sport park, then it should be assigned to a specific government agency to manage it so that we don't lose the money that we put in there. The other one to PHP is going to be dedicated as he leaves. Is it just going to be open for people to go there and play? So when you do an audit and you establish this trail, the resources that went into building these assets, then the government should own them and be able to manage them. For instance, we saw a road being built in Foya. Is it Thomas Father own money or that government money? We saw a city hall being built in Foya. Is it Thomas Father own money or that government money? Because if these ownerships are not clear, any city mayor that sits into that office in Foya has his loyalty to Thomas Fala. And if it is a government property, then the loyalty should be to the government of Liberia. The other thing is that at the beginning of this regime, we had the government taking money from donors' account. You want to do some kind of thing to be able to increase the confidence that donors will have in the incoming government, that the limitations that were in the PFM system have been addressed. And therefore, we trust you now to put our money in this system. So regardless of how they call it, whether it's a review, it's an audit, it's forensic, non-forensic, government audit, maybe the one Mr. Gayman has done, he can help the outgoing government with his expertise to see how they can prepare for it. But I think something needs to be done. And it's good for the new government because they also need to establish benchmarks. One of the things that is very important you mentioned, Dene, is that we don't have a single treasury account in Liberia, which the Unity Party said they are going to create. The government of Liberia has hundreds of bank accounts outside the consolidated account that is at the Central Bank of Liberia. And there are money in these different accounts. Even our consulates that we have, our embassies we have across the world, they have money in their accounts. If you don't clearly assess what you are meeting, and we just say, okay, maybe there's 10 million in a consolidated account, there could be funds in those other accounts that we are not aware of. And
That's why you get turnover notes. That's what they're doing now. You take your 5 minutes, Mr. Ja. Please be equitable with the time.
So what I'm saying is this is a public financial management issue. A turnover note is not only financial. A turnover note is an explanation of projects and programs and policies and where you've stopped. An audit will give you much more information. Lastly, the other good thing to audit is to understand what the weaknesses are and how the new government can build on those weaknesses moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Tevina, I want you to conclude on the audit and then we go to our next topic. If you have... Tevina, you are muted.
I don't have much to say, but I think, what's his name, Thomas? I think Thomas said much there, about the audit. I know we talk about, audit, but investigation, I would say, even when it comes to those roads, the thing you're talking about, Fala Road and all of that, that's not even for audit. That's for a full-blown investigation into the roads and how the money was spent, the source of the funding and all of that. I won't waste my time with even audit. Straight to investigation. Open investigation, a couple of those.
Why will you go straight to investigation?
We want to know the source of the funding.
Stolen money.
We want to know the source of the funding. That's the objective, the source of the funding. So we know, is it personal money? Is it government money? So then we leave it if it's his own money and we move on to other things. We don't have resources to be all around beating around the bush. Come up with a defined objective and go after it. That's all. What are you trying to objective? I'm sorry, what are you trying to accomplish? Was it his own money used or was it government money? That's it right there. That's all I want to know. Why wasting time to go to audit before I direct down to investigation? No, I will go audit on other things. Like he was saying, we're looking at other agencies at their performance. You do a performance audit. Not only a compliance, you do a performance audit. Were we abiding by rules and regulations, by our own rules? Were they following processes? How we handle, I talk about data and Mr. Arguing about it. But the data, we don't know how to handle our data in Liberia. Data drives everything. How are we managing our technology, our infrastructure over there? How are we managing data? It's important, all those things. But I think Mr. Namwe wanted to come in. I saw somebody raise hand.
Yeah,
Or-
Calebo before now.
Yeah.
Calebo raised his hand. Now we just jump in.
So,
Oh, okay.
Dennis, I want to just comment quickly on this. I think Thomas made a lot of good points on this, but I'm not going to repeat some of the things he said. But when he mentioned the role in the City Hall Thomas Fala bill in FOIA, I think that is symbolic. And I think that when he picked that up, there are several other examples we can go to. And like Tavi, is that Tavi?
Tavi.
Tavi.
Yeah.
She said, if we go into investigation, for example, there are outstanding government officials who build personal projects. Take, for example, the incoming vice president, Jeremiah Kun, he built a hospital that is there in question. Was much of a debate. Was that his personal money he used and how you acquire it? Because his salary could not build that structure for him. Thomas Fala has a university. You know, there are other lawmakers who have big oil farm, you know, that they never had in their life before. There are others who serve in the city government who have big oil farm, who never, their salary could not get in this oil farm. So for me, like Thomas pointed this out, it means we should even go out there and say, look, we can count these former government officials and present government officials who got visible assets, you know, glamorous assets around the country in terms of agriculture, farming, in terms of, you know, buildings.
Thank you, Calebo. That's a fair point. I think Thomas was using his namesake Thomas Fala just to make a point, but yes, it should go across. Victor, your 30 seconds.
You know, Kilibo took some of what I wanted to say. I think we all agree here that an audit is necessary.
Right.
And I think many of us have pushed that we need to go beyond the financial audit. Just like many have said here, there are some of these people in government now who we all know 4 or 5 years ago, they not even own a fitting room, and yet they have become millionaires overnight. So an audit is in order. There are people in this government, just like Cleo said, during the campaign, issues were raised about how they acquire some of the wealth, including, you know, even the incoming vice president. So the code of conduct has to also be audited. The code of conduct say? Someone said the president declared asset. I don't remember the outgoing president declaring his asset, because that is how you compare what the president is acquiring in government against what they brought into government. So we need to also make sure the purpose of all this is to begin to raise the bar of government.
Thank you.
We really need to audit these people. We need to make sure, and if the audit leads to an investigation, which will take us back 18 years ago, then let's do it.
Right.
Let's do it.
Mr. Nawe, I'll ask you to double check if the president declares asset or not, because he did.
No,
Okay.
we know that he did.
Okay, no, listen to Mr. John. Listen to him, because you're about to say he never did it, but go ahead, Mr. John, make your point.
He did. He declares.
He did.
He declares
Okay.
asset to the GSC.
Right.
Okay, there you go. He didn't publish it, and that was the statement that I made. He declared but never published it.
Yeah, it was
Thank
never.
you.
So that's what I said.
And they say if you want to,
Thank you.
get it, you use the what is that?
Freedom
act?
of information.
Freedom of Information Act, and you can get it. You know. And
So when people say he didn't declare his asset, it's not true. He did declare to the relevant agency.
I want you to conclude, Jimmy, on this one. How do we do this? Because I think it's a consensus that the previous government be audited, and it should even go more than financial audit. I think we agree on that. So, Mr. Boaka and team, if you are listening, Jimmy, how do we do this now so that it will not appear that we are jealous because somehow Molo College, for instance, build 30 apartment complexes? So how do we do this so that it will say, oh, you are going after this is witch hunting, or because you are jealous?
You know, first of all, we need to take the stand that just because somebody is accusing us will be a deflection, will be some way to impugn our actions. Once we establish what we want to do, and this is the most important point. Why are we doing this? Because if we're doing it just to run after people, that's no. Just what we've been trying to say. We want to raise the standard. We want nobody misusing money. We don't nobody being held suspect again. So we're going to do things the right way.
Thank you.
And once you do that and sell it to the public, so the public understands why you're doing that, then who wants to cry wish hunt? That's their business, because they would cry wish hunt whether you do it or you don't do it. They would cry wish hunt.
Thank you. Our next step here is the TRC.
Dennis, can I make a 30-second?
Yeah, can we move on, please?
Yeah, we'll move on. But Evans was talking about asset recovery and all of that. Weah was not just serious, but Weah set up his own asset recovery team. You remember?
Yes, he did.
The Solicitor General and Councilor Arthur Johnson? Yeah, they were on the asset recovery team. Maybe he just first certified that. I mean, he didn't want to pursue that, but he actually started it.
Yeah, those guys then charge money to bring money. They say, the French people say l'argent appelle l'argent. So people l'argent will use it.
Have that money.
But
everything collapse.
Yeah. So the next one here is
how much
the implementation.
The main money he was going after was from the Dole government money. That was what he was going after.
Yeah.
Not from the previous Salif government.
Two guys were complete. I don't want to use jokers, but anyway. But TRC, the implementation of the TRC war crimes. I know we've been talking this all along, right? And I know there are also other complications. So I don't want to say established, but I will say, should the Boakai-led government support? I want to choose my words carefully, because we don't have lawyers to say, okay, we have to do X, Y, Z before. But should they support the implementation of the TRC or the establishment of a war crimes court? Is that something that the Boakai government should go after? Whatever the steps should be to have those things realized, should they take those steps? Mr. Morris, I'll start with you.
Right. I think it was an act from the legislature that established the TRC. So it should be. We shouldn't give Boakai any kind of slack. Just how President Weah felt, and I was one of his staunchest critic when it came to the War Economic Crimes Court. I think Boakai should implement it, just how George Weah should have implemented it, but he didn't. Should have audited Ellen's government, but he didn't. So now you hear people talking about how, yeah, it was his job to audit the Ellen government, saying he didn't do it. Now we are going to do it. They should have that same attitude that, yes, he's supposed to implement the TRC, but he didn't do it. Now we are going to do it. Well, you can see why they're being choosy, or they're being, what's the word? They're being picky when it comes to what they want to implement, because
we
people on their team.
Evans, I don't want you to go that far. We have not really heard from the Boakai team what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. So what we are doing here is we're trying to set the stage. We're trying to push them in certain direction. So let's do it.
We've heard them say they're going to audit this government. We've heard them say they're going to prosecute people. We've heard them talk about asset recovery, but we haven't heard them talk much about the Truth and Reconciliation, Commission findings. So if you're going to say that it's okay for them to prosecute or even audit this government, why are we not holding their feet to the fire to implement the TRC report? The biggest reason is because they're in bed with Prince Johnson, and that's glaring. We can see that. So definitely they're not going to do it. Another point I wanted to add, from the last topic, we have people in the Senate who have prosecutorial immunity. Senators, you have the likes of McGill, you have the likes of Tuareg, you have the likes of Prince Johnson, who, from my understanding, once they're senators, they can't be prosecuted until they leave office. So even if they find McGill guilty of corruption, can they prosecute him?
Who said that?
Senators and representatives have prosecutorial immunity. Go research on it. They do.
I know the constitutional provision you're talking about, but it's not true.
That's not true.
So what's the provision?
You can commit a crime and then go in the Senate and find a safe haven. No,
so Gonglo, as Solicitor General, prosecuted a Mangibi senator, a sitting senator. In fact, he ensured that they handcuffed him and put on the bike of the police pickup. When they brought him to Temple of Justice, he was there and he said, why is he sitting now in the air-conditioned car? If you are an ordinary citizen, will you have the ordinary citizen sit in the air condition? And the police said no. They said, put you
So
on.
what was the conclusion of it, Mr. Bungalow? If you could quickly say it before I finish my
That's
thought.
not the point. That's not the
No,
point.
the point is, he was a sitting senator.
Yeah,
He was accused of crime and he was arrested.
You can.
But you have to test it in court.
No, you
So
can't.
did it?
Mr. Morris.
So was the prosecution allowed to go forward?
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
It
No.
did. They actually.
Go ahead, Mr. John. What are you saying?
Yeah,
They
no, I
even want
said
to
it doesn't
witness
exist. You
election,
can find
witness
a safe haven
examination,
and commit
everything.
crime around there. The Constitution say the things that you do while going in Senate. If you are doing your job, you can be prosecuted for those kind of things. But let me go to Alice. The implementation of the TRC and War Crimes Court. Should the Bwaka government do it?
Well, I think the government should. The TRC document have been around for a long time, and after a couple of years, most of the people that were accused in that document, they have been dying. So I don't know when that document will take effect. So Baka government will start with the audit first, and then after that, whatever time is left, they can start other business like the TRC, but that is not going to be the number one priority for me. If the government should start work, they start with audit first, because you want to know if other government officials are leaving office, you want to know what is left in the coffer, how the money was spent, so that the next people that are taking over will know that when their time is coming to a close as well, there will be audit. So people will have this sense of management, when they have positions. So I think basically my focus is going to be on the audit, and then after the audit, if there's not many steps to be taken, like investigation and prosecution, if we don't have to go that far, then there is time left to start with TRC. But of course, the War Crime Code is important. We have perpetrators that are occupying positions, and therefore it has been very difficult to have a War Crime Code. So if Ambassador Bwaka, President-elect, can do that, I think it will be a good thing as well. But within 6 years,
is the War Crime Court more important than the audits?
And Alice, why we can do both at the same time?
Well, we're talking about resources, all right? We don't know how much is in the coffer right now. So if you don't have money, there's not much you can do, because you need to pay the people, whatever committees or team you're going to put together, they need resources to do their work. So you can't be auditing people, paying resources, and start with TRC and then War Crime Code. It's not going to work, because we don't know what is in the budget, the outgoing government. We have to make sure what is in the coffers before we can earmark what we're going to do.
Thank you.
But I believe our international partners who are willing to help out.
Victor, hold on, Victor. Let me go to Thomas. Thomas on the TRC or War Crimes Court.
The thing I can say about this is that the War and Economic Crimes Code got two components. The war portion of it will give a closure to our past. That is the war that we fought in our country. And the economic piece of it will open our future. So that is something that is extremely important. And the Unity Party says that they have an executive committee decision on the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Code. We hope that they can go ahead and implement that executive committee decision. And even people who participated in the war are saying they want to go and clear their names. Because this is 20 years after the Civil War, and we're still talking about this. We don't have any closure to it. So they need to tackle it head on. When the U.S. government ambassador for, I think, genocide and war crimes was in Liberia the last time, She said if Liberia was willing to go ahead with it, they could provide support to us. So I don't think the argument should all boil down to the issue of resources. There is
Thank you.
currently a bill in the House. The president had requested the House to advise him. We hope that they can resurrect that. The only thing I can say is that the route that the CDC government wanted to take to establish that transitional committee to even investigate the TRC report itself before any action was taken, I think that was just to buy time. I don't think we should go that route. They should be able to elevate this. And if we are going to do it as a country, we do it. Because like Alice was saying, some of the perpetrators are getting old and they are dying. And if they are all gone, then what is the essence of actually doing it? They won't be able to defend themselves. And since they are calling for it, I think we should do it as a country and be able to move ahead so that we can just focus on development rather than always watching our back to see if there's something that we left undone.
Thank you. Victor.
No, I was going to mention that too. That there are international partners who have offered to help. I think with resources if we ever plug up the will to to institute the War and Economics Crime Code as well as the TRC finding. And I agree with Thomas here and the previous speaker. I think this is very necessary. We need closure. A lot of people suffer. People are still suffering as a result of the war. So we need some kind of closure. There are people who directly benefited from this war and continue to use those resources that they pillage from our natural resources that they're using to buy power. We know people are buying votes in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
So those people need to be dispossessed of these ill-gotten resources. So the War and Economic Crime Code is really necessary. I hope that this government will plug up the courage to do so. I'm waiting to see how they're going to do that when they roll on the back of some of these people to come to power. How they're going to do that is something I am waiting to see how they'll do that, because it's going to be a very interesting chess game they will have to play.
Thank you.
They're compromised.
Mr. Gaiman.
To be honest with you, I have to be honest here. The incoming president, Joseph Boakai, cannot implement the TRC report. He cannot implement. Listen, he cannot implement the War and Economic Crime Court. For once, we know that the executive cannot establish a court in the republic. It's a constitutional matter. It has to be done by the legislature. We know that. So that set aside, I know without the power of the legislature, President-elect Joseph Boakai will never establish a War and Economic Crime Court. 2, the TRC report we are talking about, constitutionally, it has been gutted. I think Ellen Johnson Sirleaf went to court, and part of that has been set aside by the Supreme Court, which is a model now that everybody is going to use. So will Joseph Boakai, with all the myriad of problems we have, will he leave those to be chasing TRC report that everybody goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court excuse them each one at a time? Prince Johnson made it clear. He said, those of you who are talking about the War and Economic Crime Court, you were not in Accra. The Accra Peace Accord gave me clemency. And that's an international document, instrument signed by the UN, ECOWAS, and the people of Liberia. You cannot just take that back because you don't like me. So this thing that we are talking about, let's talk soak and torso. It is easier to say we implement it, but when you look at the implications, the complicated issues involved, and Prince Johnson, whether you like him or not, he's telling you this is what brought to the table that I signed, that we signed, that brought peace to this country. Are you going to unravel that? So for us to say we're now going to put this on the shoulders of the incoming president is unrealistic. It's not going to happen. So let us leave the War and Economic Crime Court. Let's leave the TRC report and let the incoming president.
Allow me to push back
Prince
on
Johnson
something what
is
Mr.
not a
Gimmons
real
said.
person.
Allow me to push back on something Mr. Gimmons said. Mr. Gimmons was right.
Hold on, Jimmy. Gimmons, please end your thoughts.
Yeah, so if you listen to Prince Johnson, all the warlords, everybody that partook in the war that were giving clemency just to bring peace to Liberia, we would be like dog chasing our tail. We should concentrate the president, the incoming president, like he said in his promise in his campaign. It's about jobs to uplift the Liberian people, to improve the economy. If he's going to waste his 6 years on the TRC report and the economic war crime code and leave the job and the economic alone, he would be doomed.
All right. So, but this whole thing about amnesty, I don't want us to get into
Yeah,
that.
but I want to say something quick, John. First of all,
you can even let me talk.
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead, but you should give me a chance. Let me make a point, and then you can come and go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Crimes against humanity, war crimes, they are not something you can get clemency for, even if they don't do it in Liberia. If Liberia doesn't have the chutzpah to bring these guys to justice, anybody can do it around the world. So what I suspect, if anything, it will not be in Liberia, but I can see some international court, some criminals being handed over to an international court, maybe. But all that argument that they got clemency, sorry, it doesn't apply to war crimes against humanity.
So should the Buakai government do that? And that's why I was very careful. At least take steps that will lead to that.
So should the Buakai do? As far as I'm concerned with the Buakai government, he needs to get Liberia on a stable economic path. Where people are suffering, people don't have jobs, our children are not going to school, we don't have health care, there's no infrastructure. He needs to get Liberia on. If that should be his priority, because if he doesn't take that as a priority, he will find the same problem that were facing previous governments. So I think that should be his priority.
President, we have made those same points, and people were saying he wasn't making sense. He made those same points for reasons not to implement the TRC reports, and people criticizing for it. But yeah, we are making those same points again today, re-echoing what the president said previously. Just wanted to say that. Go ahead, Mr. John.
and Evans, you will have some good points, but anyway, you are basing it on President Weah.
No, I'm just drawing it back because when he said it, everybody was beating on him. But now we're all saying it, and we think we're making sense.
Right?
So Weah did not establish the war crimes code. Where are the jobs that he created?
The point that I made was President Weah said the reason he couldn't establish it's not at the top of his priorities is because the country had more pressing issues, especially the economic issues that was hindering the progress of our country. That was the point he was making. So Mr. Eastman is echoing the same thing, and Mr. Gimmons is echoing the same thing.
The bigger point is that if you don't address impunity,
he said it at the airport when he came from the United Nations. There was Spoon TV journalist that was talking to him. He made those statements at the airport.
So what he said at that airport was pass the buck to the legislature. That's what he was basically doing, right? So his reason for not implementing was not, hey, I have other priorities. And now at the end of 6 years, we don't see what are those priorities, but that's a whole new discussion. But I don't want you to base your input to this very important discussion on what was done to Weah. Weah is gone. He served one term because he didn't tell the people So on this clean slate, what should Buakai do so that we don't have the repeat of what we went through? This is the basis of the show tonight.
The only parallel I'm drawing, Mr. Ja, please, if you give me 10 seconds.
The parallel is Weah. Forget this Weah thing. Let's move on.
Yeah, he can't let it go. He can't let it go.
Let it Weah fail as a president.
Yeah.
The parallel I'm drawing is you have multiple people on the platform who, without even thinking about it, because I'm sure Mr. Eastman wasn't, referring to President Weah when he made that statement, was saying something that in their mind makes sense. And it's in the best interest of our country, where We don't have the monies to start a TRC court, and thereby we should focus on the economic issues that's hindering our country. And that makes sense. And President Weah said the very same thing. But since people want to beat on him, they beat on him when he said it then. But now Mr. Eastman, Mr. Gayman are saying it, and we're nodding our head and saying yes, that makes sense. I'm just drawing that parallel. So it's not
Yeah,
not
but
defending the president. I'm just saying.
The contradiction is he said it, but he never did anything about the economic issues.
Well, that's why
what
we're
did he
waiting to see
do?
how Boycott is going to handle the economic issues. Since it was so easy and we couldn't do it,
So
let's
there's
see
no
how Boycott
parallel
does.
right there. There's no.
No, the statements. I'm drawing parallel to the statements and to the sentiments about the war crime. The war
You
crime.
just have to let this weird thing go.
Evan, rough
I
to
know.
them.
Let it
Yeah.
go. Let it go.
I'm not. I'm just being fair. I'm being fair.
Let it go. He's out. He's out. He lost.
Let
He lost. Let it go.
Okay, Evan,
Dennis,
let it go.
let it go. He lost.
Let it go. Thank you.
Dennis,
But
here
I like to
here's the
predict
thing.
something.
Hold on,
If y'all allow me. Huh?
No, Jimmy. Mohammed, go ahead. Your turn.
So, Dennis, every time this is brought up, it brings up, horrible memory of the excesses, committed against our people for nothing. I mean, people that were just brutalized and, killed in all kinds of manner by some who are in the corridors of power today. But since 1997, I would say, the Liberian people have shown that they're not voting to punish these people, to punish these perpetrators. Look, Charles Taylor won. And then we go on now. George Weah, people that have won election, look, they've coalesced with Prince Johnson and have been able to win election. Right now, this coalition is Mr. Boycott won this election. Maybe he probably would have come close, but not beating Weah were it not for, let's face the fact, were it not for a coalition with Prince Johnson. And this is a fact. So what the Liberian people are saying is that we're not ready to punish these people. So to the chagrin of a lot of us, Liberian voters are not ready for that. But what I will say is that as a matter of, ensuring that you lay the groundwork for justice, at the very least, this administration can begin the groundwork. Where, for example, I would like to see, for example, the appointment, of a justice minister that's committed to this kind of cause, like Tiawan Gonglo, perhaps. You have a Tiawan Gonglo, and you move along the lines of, you're not taking a radical step, but you're making sure that you're laying the groundwork. You're announcing that you're serious about this. How he does that is something for the president-elect, and his, cabinet ministers and, officials in his government. That's something they have to deal with. The vice president is from the MDR. The MDR, the leader is Prince Johnson. So is he now going to say, okay, priority number one for me is the war crime court? I don't think he's going to do that as a practical matter. Although, there are voters who believe that should be done. Someone like me believe that should be done, but does it matter? Does my view matter in this case? It doesn't matter. The overwhelming majority of the people didn't vote for this. So I don't think he's going to go along those lines. But if you're asking my personal opinion, yes, I think the groundwork should be set where he's supporting the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report.
Thank you. I'll go to Tevi, but there's a word a colleague and myself were talking about 2 days ago, talking about what aboutism, the technique or practice of responding to an accusation. Say, what's about this other one? I know during the 12 years or the 6 years of President Weah, when you tell them, they say, what's about Salif? The same thing happens Salif time. Right. Now, Weah is giving the red card, as Jerka Koluba said. He's not going to be president in a month or so, right? And every time Mr. Morris is doing this, what aboutism? Okay, President, we are.
Yeah, but Mr. Janelle, real quick, you say he should let go, but then you bring it back into the public. Go ahead.
Yes, because because it's not the first time. Because I don't want, we are going to the mysterious self. He's still going to say, what's about this one? So that's why I'm trying to introduce this word, which may be new word to some people who may watch the broadcast. What aboutism? What's about
To
we are?
put it in a nutshell, Mr. John, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. If you get criticized, we are about it, and Boyka is doing the same thing. You should criticize him about it.
But
Simple as
it's one
that.
person, it's just one person said it, and you are acting as if that's the consensus.
What do you mean? One person said what?
Jimmy said, "Oh, because of the resources." The first people are
Mr. 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 Mr.
hold on,
Nabwe
man.
also said it. Madam Wilson also said it. So three people said it.
Right. So, and how many left? So, what I'm saying here is, I want your opinion whether we should do it or not. Forget this or we are. You know. Yeah.
So I mean, this is our sitting president, soon to be former
Because
president. He's
it's
very
been 20,
relevant in our country.
it's been 20 years.
We can't point his statements out when it's relevant to our discussions. He's persona non grata. We can't bring him up
Elvis, you
in
just talking,
discussions at
but
all.
other people talking when you say they're not fair with time.
Because we have other people who said we should implement TRC, right? Because this
I was one of them.
it has been 20 years, and we still hear the same excuse. Oh, we can leave it and concentrate on this. Let's concentrate on this. So where am I going
30
to have justice?
seconds.
When am I going to have justice? It's 20 years.
Dennis.
Well,
Right?
Dennis, let me come in on that
Dennis.
TRC. I think I want to
30 seconds.
Okay, go ahead and intervene.
Oh, go ahead. No, let her go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Elvis, what I'm saying is the new president can go ahead with the audit. And after you should have known what is in the account, how money was expended. And then if there's more time, he can come back to do the TRC and the work crime code. I didn't say you shouldn't do that because of resources. That's not my point of argument. I'm saying priority number one right now is do the audit. Let's see how much they are leaving in the account. Because when Madame Celine was leaving, she left certain amount of money in the coffers. So let's know how much is there. After all the, beautiful houses that have been built all around Monrovia, let's see where the money came from and what is
Tell me
left.
about it.
After
And
that, we can do the second priority. We can go there. But I'm not
respectfully,
saying no,
Madam
don't
Wilson,
do anything at all.
respectfully,
That's not the point.
that's a moot point.
He's going
That's a
to
moot
clear.
point because Mr. Nambwe said other international bodies are willing to help us to implement the TRC. So having money
Okay,
or not
because
having money is irrelevant in that regard.
Okay, but so I did not argue with him. He got it information and he brought it forward to add to what I was saying that there could be resources to do that. That's fine with me. So why are you still bringing it? We are issue.
We're not talking weird now. We're just talking about whether Boyka should implement it or not, and I said he should. I disagree with President
so
Weah on the
forget we
TRC,
are right
on the
now.
implementation of it. I wanted him to implement it, but he didn't. So I disagree with him on that
We
point.
don't want to be going by. Let's just forget
so
we are.
no audit then. No audit. Let's forget Weah and move on. When Boyka get it, don't go back. Let's just move forward with the government and not audit Weah.
No,
we don't want to be going back.
We have to know.
Okay. So we have to.
So, Dennis, if I may come in for a minute.
Let me go to Tavina before, and then Kalamo.
Yeah, I think the question there, should we establish the war crime code, right, Dennis? Or the TRC?
Or at least take the steps that will do that.
Take a step in that direction.
Yeah.
I think certainly we should do that. I agree with most people what they said that this is not a priority right now. Priority as in year one. But it's something that must be done because this government will be evaluated on that. That's part of the scorecard. You can't say, well, I'll wait for 4 years, 5 years. That's some of the things that hamper we are today. The whole TRC or war crimes court is not only going to establish who's wrong or right or, exonerate people or bring healing, but also serve as deterrence to our people. That you cannot just take away lives or do certain things and just walk scot-free. We're not going to do that anymore. So it's important. But yes, but let's Barca focus on, getting money, creating jobs, and all the things they said they would do in year one. Let them do it. But I don't think it should even go beyond year two for them to start evaluating. In fact, as they're creating jobs and doing and looking at other things, they should form a committee to look at this document. It's been like you said, 20 years. So form an independent committee that will look at this whole document and make some recommendations to the president, and then he, whatever step he need to take it to the legislature. But you can walk and chew gum at it. As he's thinking about creating jobs, you just need a team of 5 or 4 or 4 people to look at that document and give him some recommendations. So I think they can do both. Yeah.
Thank you,
The,
Mr. Calabo.
the World Economic Crowd will create job by itself.
Yeah, Mr. Gongo.
Dennis, I just want to drop in a few points on there. I listened to Thomas earlier. I think Thomas made salient points from the beginning. I think he was the first to go on this issue. But the War in Economic Crime Court, there is no need for Barca to look at any document. There's so much work that has been done. For example, the National Bar Association, under the leadership of Councillor Tawan Gonglo, actually did draft the submitted to the House of Representatives Committee on Claims and Petition. They draft War and Economic Crime Court bill. Liberia has not even made a move to vote on that. I think by count about 48 representatives signed on the last time. Some of the representatives who signed were not elected this going election. However, Gambia is using Liberia document as is a reference point to move on with their court. Okay, while Liberia is having the document that one other country is referencing, sitting down and documenting on the table. So here's the thing: there is a strong correlation. Those who are talking about job and economic development, there is a strong correlation between rule of law and economic development. Listen, if you don't move on this issue of accountability to address the past, big companies, serious companies will fear coming to Liberia because they know Liberia is sitting on the time bomb. Rwanda, go and study the history of Rwanda. What happened in Rwanda in the 90s was on a larger scale. But when they went back, they say it happened before in Rwanda and nothing was done about it. It just repeated itself maybe 50 or 60 years later. Okay? So we have to go on this matter. And for me, I think the incoming president, if he wants to be taken serious, that should be one of his 100 days deliverable. To instruct the legislature to act on that.
Don't happen to our rule.
The international community will be rushing to Liberia and say, oh, there is a new day in Liberia. There will be an influx of donors who are coming to support the process. They'll say, oh, Liberia is ready now. There is a new president that is talking about accountability, because that has wider implication. If we begin to move on our War in Economic Crime Court, the Economic Crime Court aspect, like Thomas says, is about our future and it's important. Okay, if we begin to move on that, it opens a different new discourse and thinking in the country. But if we don't do this as a country, we are just actually doing the service to the country and the younger generation. Nothing serious will happen. And I will end on this note. I think others have made even this point. My opinion, I know that the legislature does have the constitutional mandate to establish a court. But if a certain president wants certain thing done, the Constitution has a remedy. They have executive order. You can issue executive order, and within 12 months, the legislature can be authorized, or a bill can be submitted to the legislature and say, within 100 days,
can I ask Gongo one question, please?
And I think, I've even said to some of we are people that we are use executive power now to establish a war crime code.
Thank you, Mr. Gongo.
You find it difficult to undo it.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question, please, Dennis?
Yeah, before your question, I just want to make it clear that in President-elect Waka's 100-day deliverable, the TRC is not there. In his 100 days, he said there's no car that will be stuck in the mud in Liberia, in our
We are in
major
dry
highways.
season.
What that's supposed to mean?
On a major road.
Yeah, he trying to qualify it as we go along.
Yeah,
So they're
but
gonna fix the road in 100 days? Major
Yes.
roads in 100 days?
Yeah,
That's
let
not
me say.
doable.
Mohammed, go
I-
ahead.
I-
Ask your question.
Cars don't get stuck on the road in the dry season. Let's just say that.
I don't see why.
Comrade
I don't
Gongo, can I
see-
ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please do, Mohammed.
Were you my full brother? Will you agree with me that and join me in asking this new incoming administration to appoint Tiawan Gonglo as the new justice minister, as you know, as a roadmap as who lead the nation down towards agreeing with the implementation,
The question
even if
is too
it's
long,
not for
Mr. Sharif.
implementation.
Your time is up.
I'm making a statement. Mohammed, I'm sorry to disappoint you. At my age and experience, we do not lobby and campaign for presidential appointment because it's a prerogative of the president. Whoever the president appoints reflect his value and judgment. So you don't do that.
Thank you. That leaves us, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Friday Night Debate. We have one more to talk about, and let us be brief.
Yeah, Mr. Dennis, real quick, can I mention something? Real quick. 15 seconds, not even that. I want to make it clear here what Ellen Johnson said when she was leaving office. Somebody asked her, said, why didn't you persecute anybody? She said, I persecuted people, and for some reason, the court could not convict not even one of all. So it's not just the persecution, it's the system. Thank you.
Right. All right. There have been a lot of mysterious deaths, as we call them. Some were investigated, some were given, autopsy, and all these things happen. What comes to mind? We call them, although not all of them were auditors, but for the lack of better phraseology to describe that, we say the 6 auditors. So 6 auditors died, and the way those issues were concluded, people were not clear about it. We have another group, 3 gentlemen, we say 3 missing boys. They were kind of young adults, but for the sake of just using a term to reflect, we say the 3 missing boys. So things like that. Of late, the case of Gloria Musu's-Cat, still in jail. Should the Waka government reopen these kind of cases, starting with the 6 auditors? Mr. Gonglo. Yeah. You are muted, sir. Unmute yourself, sir.
I'm going to modify your comment or your description. I don't want to say mysterious because death occurred both under the Salih government and under the WIA government. The 2 governments did attempt to show evidence or read cause of death by forensic or whatever.
I'm concentrating on the WIA government for now.
Mr.
Gonglo, for tonight, we're using the WIA government. Those that die under the WIA government.
Well, Dennis, as a scholar, you don't limit me on this platform. I will answer the question. Let the viewer judge my opinion.
No, but I also have to define the scope of the.
All right, so I get that. Thank you. So the both governments actually attempted, in my mind, not adequately to show the cause of death by conducting autopsy and what have you. There are still questions lingering in the minds of the public. So here is what I would say. Like I said earlier on the question of audit, instead we should have a commission that looks at the 18 years. I would say the incoming government should actually also commission an inquiry into all debts that the public has questions about, including those that occur even under Ellen Johnson Salih, those that occur, I don't want to say Courtney, under the Unity Party government for 12 years, including the last 6 years of the WIA administration. I think we should do that because, if we don't do this thing, you don't want to have court of public opinion for there to be even room for somebody to go and talk to maybe less fortunate children and say, you know what, this is a witch hunt. Look at Harry Green, look at Michael Allison.
So you believe that if it is done only for the 6 years, it will be a witch hunt? Do you believe that?
There's in my judgment, I think we'll be missing the boot. I don't want to use a witch hunt because I still strongly feel for Harry Green's issue. When I left this country in 2016 to go work in Liberia, everybody who talked to me in Liberia was recording them. I put my phone on record, automatic record throughout for the past 3 years.
Because here is the thing.
I was afraid that what happened to Harry Greaves was a political killing.
Mr. Green, Mr. Gongro, this is the same whataboutism. By the time we say this 6 years, you say, what about Salif?
No, I'm not into that. Then that's my argument is, I love Liberia. I want Liberia to get this right.
Comparative analysis. Comparative analysis is important.
I ask you a question. Should we investigate those deaths? Tell me, unless you investigate Salif, don't investigate Weah. Then you are answering my question. Right?
No. I'm saying let's investigate all.
No. I'm not asking you about all. I'm asking you specifically about during the 6 years. Should we
Why you don't want Harry Green's death to be investigated?
No. Answer my question first, and then I will tell you. Because I want to limit the scope. Because if I mention Salif, we may go back to Obi. Who killed Obi? So I'm saying I'm using the 6 years for tonight. Should we investigate the 6 years? Yes or no?
I'm sorry to disappoint you as a panelist. We should investigate all political.
May I come in for 10 seconds? We have Liberians, and this thing, I'm a Liberian. We do not have the discipline to firmly believe to prosecute anybody. We don't. This next administration will not do it. They don't have that conviction to do it. They don't have it, and they will never have it. That's why they just, it's just a topic for discussion, but it will never happen.
But you are assuming, right? Do you believe? Hold on. Do you believe? Hold on, Jimmy. Do you believe that? Because it's the same whataboutism that we're talking about. Because as soon as you touch them, they say, "What's about the other one?" So can we put a marker and start from here? Are you saying because people like Mr. Gonglo will say, "Okay, before you do this, you got to go back"?
I'm not saying before you do that, Dennis. I'm calling on the government and saying, "Look, we have a new. This is a moment for reset.
Mr. Gonglo, I heard you.
We must get it right."
I heard you.
Yes.
I heard you. So, Jimmy, your position, should the Boakai government investigate the deaths under President Weah?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Gaiman.
Well, one of the things we have to also understand that capital crimes have no statute of limitation. So we get that clear. That makes it irrelevant that if you, and I said it earlier, when Eddie Snow was accused of taking money from LPRC, what did he say? Take me to court, I'm going to win. When Ellen took him to court, when he won, he started beating his chest. I have been vindicated. The court has vindicated me, and he's walking around with his loot, using that, like you said, to buy power. So the statute of limitation does not apply to capital crime. If somebody was murdered, like Harry Greaves and all of those people, when the new president comes in, he's here to investigate, to bring justice. That includes everything on the docket. That is Allison, Greaves, the Article 6 auditor, those that we suspect government or people got involved, the Gifted Lama, all of these folks. He has to do it all. And in that case,
where should he stop?
Where should he stop?
Or stop?
Start or stop? Where should he stop?
How far back can we go?
Oh, I would say prior to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, it was war, so we cannot go back to war crime because that's what the TRC is all about. I mean, the TRC and the economic crime is all about.
On the door, right?
Well, we're not. Those are
And-
wartime. Those
and
are
Tubber.
wartime. I won't go back to that because we said.
But you said no statute of limitation, right?
No.
Yeah.
Things that happen on a door, the TRC address those periods.
All of
Hold
those
on,
TRC
Mr. Gonglo, hold on.
All of those.
That's why, because I planned it. That's why I limited my scope to where. It was deliberate. Because I don't want to enter this argument because I don't know enough of the law to say, well, this is how far we can go. That's why I just use 6 years. Right? And you are saying, unless we go to Ellen, we can go to Wea. Is that the argument?
No, that is not the argument. I'm only saying that since we do not have a statute of limitation, anything post-war should be investigated, including the most prominent one was Allison, Harry Greaves, and all of those folks.
Judy Bryan. It was Charles Taylor time because he was elected.
No, we cannot. Charles Taylor is war. We can't use Charles Taylor time.
He was elected in 97.
Come on.
He was elected as president.
Come on now, guys. Let's be serious. Are you going to call that an election?
So you
Taylor was elected democratically. I was election.
Would that be called election? Would Taylor be
But
called
we also fought war during his tenure as president.
Samuel Doki, can we investigate Samuel Doki?
Just cancel it?
No, I'm just making the point that it doesn't
before the
immune
war
Taylor
started.
because we also fought war.
No.
And so even if
Taylor
war
was
starts
elected
tomorrow, God
democratically.
forbid,
No
then we say,
argument
okay, let's let our other one go.
No, I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just making the point that Taylor government was not a peacetime government. There was war going on during his government as well.
Yeah, that was elected government. So I want us to again limit the scope to the 6 years on we have some what in Labrador people always say mysterious deaths. So these deaths that were not concluded, people still have questions about. Should the Bwaka government investigate them, Mr. Sharif?
Yes, it should be investigated. And Dennis, you are limiting the scope for a reason. I don't know why guys are not looking at this, because if you start to go back, which where are you going to stop now? Are you going to go to Charles King? Are you going to go all the way back? Because you have to look at all the if you want to do that now, you're going to be looking at all the human rights abuses under Charles King, under Barkley, under Tubman, Tober, Doe. Somebody said Doe was wartime. No, Doe was 10 years before the war, before a war occurred. 10 years. And then Taylor, 1997, he killed, slaughtered, murdered Samuel Doki and others. So that wasn't the war. So that's what Dennis is setting a scope for this. But this whataboutism, to borrow from Dennis, is just killing us tonight, because by the time you talk about one thing and they say, well, what about that person? Which is understandable. I think we should have another show for that. But yes.
What about it?
Yeah, they should open those investigations, because I don't understand why George Weah didn't. And he should. At least that will show a difference between him and the previous administration.
But
that is, he's serious about justice.
I don't agree
and
with
lastly,
Mohammed, though.
and lastly, excuse me, I didn't interrupt you. And lastly, I was asking him a question. Excuse me. I was asking him a question about his brother. Would you advocate for Tiawan Gonglo to, for his appointment as justice minister? And that's a question that I'm serious about. So if Bwaka is looking at, we're sitting here talking about the TRC report, at least agreeing in principle with the TRC report. So if you're serious about justice reform, if you're serious about, implementing some of these things and making sure that your Justice Department or your Ministry of Justice is independent, I know an independent-minded person. And one person that, right off my mind was Tiawan Gonglo, and that's the reason why I asked that question. Not that Kalapo is going to support that, because he's not going to sit on this platform and say, oh yeah, I need, they should support my brother's appointment, although maybe deep down when he goes home tonight, he's going to say Mohammed was probably right. But that's not the point. But I agree with
Mohammed. Thank you, Victor.
Who said that Mohammed in public? Let me just
yes.
I don't do things.
I think up to the start of the Ellen Johnson era, I think the TRC covered a good bit of that, and so I think we can safely draw the line there. But I think this government should investigate the debts that happened under the immediate past government, as well as those years that the former President Johnson and the former Vice President were also in office. I think those should also be investigated. So I don't think this is about a what about the same, but we know the TRC covered almost all those years up to 2005 when the first 12 years of the alien government came in. So those deaths were never investigated. I think
brother Nambi, I want to ask you, who are we talking about? We're talking about Liberians, right?
Correct.
The police station, all those, everybody is just driven by money. There is no conviction on human. We have no conviction on these things. That's why it's not going anywhere. So yeah, theoretically,
argument, Jimmy, to say okay, but should he do it? You said you were just painting a very bleak picture tonight. That hey, I mean,
so I believe yes, this government should do so, but they will be seen as witch hunting if the immediate past government is also not investigated for those.
Will you see that as witch hunting?
I won't. I won't.
All right, so let's leave it at that. Forget about how other, because these imaginary people you are thinking about who are going to see as witch hunting. I just want to hear your opinion. Let me go to Thomas.
They're not imaginary, Dennis. If there are characters in this government, incoming government, who served in the past government during which time deaths happened and were never investigated. How can they come in now and talk about investigating the deaths that occur right after they left?
And investigation is not. They are going to court. You go to court. They are not going to summarily execute people because you accuse them. You go to court. You can defend yourself and win and walk out.
Yeah, right? But that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I say it should happen.
Yeah, thank you.
I think, Dennis, the question you're asking is even just is mind-boggling. The both government produce autopsy report and establish a cause of death. It's just that we in public court of opinion wouldn't agree with it. That's all. That's what we're calling for our open new investigation. But the Minister of Justice released autopsy report on all these deaths, including Harold Greaves, Margot Allison, my good dear friend, Newswa, all of them. They released autopsy report on them.
I'm not doubting that.
Yeah.
I just deliberately decided to limit my scope to 6 years. Thomas, go ahead.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the comparison, but I, for one, from my training in economics, if we look at the ministerial death per capita, 2 in 12 years, uncountable in 6 years.
Uncountable?
There's actually a mag. I mean, you get 3 missing boys, auditors, a lot of people, Princess Copper and all of that. There are just too many deaths. There were just too many deaths that actually took place. Even right now, we're talking about the issue of audit. How do you think those auditors who will be asked to go and audit will actually be able to do their work professionally when they watch back and see how their friends mysteriously died? So we can do the comparison, I mean, whatever we want to do. But if we cannot resolve some of those issues, I think the point was already made that we need to reset. I think Mr. Gonglo made that point. So if we are going to reset, then we just need to start at a point and say we are going to change moving forward. We audit the former government, we investigate these deaths so that we can just find a way to reset. Because if we continue to just go back and go back and go back, and it is this issue of saying, let bygone be bygone, let nobody bother their friend. And this is the message that the outgoing president is preaching. I didn't audit you because I wanted peace. And therefore, don't audit me. And we're just going to go in this cycle of competition of doing the wrong thing. The Unity Party will now do the wrong thing. And if we talk, they say we are did it. If anybody wants to do wrong after we are, then you have to do it with a huge margin. Because the margin on the limitations of his presidency will be huge.
Can somebody put their mic? Thomas, did somebody interrupting your?
Right.
I think. Mr. Jack, can you mute everybody else?
Please mute yourself if you are not. Go ahead, Thomas, and your point. By the
Yeah,
way,
let me just end. I think the word I would take from Mr. Gonglo is reset. Let's just reset. Let's do the audit. Let's investigate anything that is there to be investigated. Let's get on the path of doing the right things in Liberia. That's the only way we are going to
Yeah,
develop.
but reset beginning where?
That those in authority decide where they want to stop.
Okay, because I just wanted to remind us, it is because of the Ellen Johnson's refusal to do the right thing that the international body had to come in to take out Charles Taylor, to take out Moses Wright, to take out Moses Thomas, to take out all these people. It is
Yeah.
a real government refusal to do the right thing that the international body had to come and sanction McGill and sanction CFOS and sanction Bill 208. When is this government of Liberia going to get up and do the right thing? When?
That's what we are calling for now.
because the whataboutism is preventing a lot of things.
No, but I think that is a symptom. The root of it is they are not convicted to go against wrong. So they say, what about? But because they lack the conviction that this thing is wrong and I will stand by it, whether my brother, sister, mom, I don't care. Go after it. They do that what about to deflect. And because there's a lack of conviction. And this is why I say we don't have the who's supposed to do it. We just don't have
Can
it.
I get a chance to answer this question too?
Go ahead, Evans.
Right. Thank you. Yes, I think they should be investigated as long as the case were not, adjudicated and the person was found not guilty or guilty, then it's still open for investigation. But I think one of the things that we're kind of glossing over is our limitations when it comes to investigation in Liberia. For example, those three missing men, they're not boys. Those are people in the mid, in early, mid 20s to early 30s. Those are not teenagers. Those are men who went to do a piece of job for somebody who is well known within in Liberia, and they drown. Do you know how many people get in canoes, in little villages that capsize and they die? And nobody think it was some kind of conspiracy by the president, to harvest their organs for some, odd reasons. The reality is, when you look at that investigation, just as a layperson looking from the outside, you say, well, what was the purpose to kill those boys? Because first you have to establish motive. When you talk about murder and these things, you have to establish those key factors. What's the motive behind it? So that's one thing that I don't know if we can come to a logical conclusion that somebody was actually there and killed those boys and dump their body in the river. I don't know. The Princess Cooper situation, I don't know why people think it was some kind of conspiracy. Who was she? Was she an auditor that the government was trying to kill to silence her? Was she somebody close to the government? Of course not. They said she had some kind of tuberculosis that flare up. It's not something that is unusual. It's happened before. People can die from hemorrhages or something, some blood vessel popping and people bleed from their nose. So they did an autopsy. The family was even involved in it. People from the United States sent money to help do the autopsy, and it came to a conclusion that she died from some kind of hemorrhage or some kind of bleeding from the inside, internal bleeding. So when you talk about the auditors, I guess that's the one that's most suspicious because those are government officials who were in charge of keeping the government accountable. So I guess maybe those are mysterious deaths, so to speak. But those other deaths where you have normal citizens who die, one apparently from a kingdom capside, another one from some kind of illness that she had. I don't think those are things that you can tie to the government. But once it's not concluded in the court of law, any other government that comes into play have the right to audit. But since we're not doing whataboutism, I'm not going to say Michael, Allison. I'm not going to say Harry Grieve because then I would be going back to the previous government. Everybody accused me of defending George Weah. But even in the court of law, lastly, the doctrine of clean hands. If you go to the court of law and you committed a crime, or you did something the wrong way, they'll say, you can't even hear your case because you already did it the wrong way. You broke the law, and thereby because you broke the law, we're not going to hear your case. So if we say that previous governments didn't do the right thing and they neglected to do their duties, and thereby the new government coming into power, they didn't do the right thing, and people try to draw those parallels and do the comparison, that's whataboutism. Okay, fine. But for me, I think we did a lot of things wrong. I've been on the platform many times. I've criticized him. I'm not a sycophant. You guys know that. I can criticize Weah. But when I think people are being unfair to him, I also can defend him in that same breath.
When
So
have you
thank you.
criticized him?
Are you kidding me? Mr. Gamer, please tell this guy on his very platform I criticized Will many times.
Yeah.
Mr. Eastman has been on the show with me. He can attest to that as well.
And Mr. Murray is not a child. So when people criticize him, don't feel obligated to defend him.
Right.
But here is the thing, Mr. I want to say is you are only thinking about this investigation in terms of government. Just recently, FOL reporter Prince Momba, his niece got a call from the boyfriend. She went there, and that was the end. Nobody found her. They discovered the body
And she is a citizen.
already buried with the one hand sticking out. And that's how they assumed that body and took to JFK. They called the police to investigate. The police has done nothing. They say, at the minimum, get the call log. Who called and where this guy is, because we know she got this boyfriend, but we don't know where he is. So things like that. It is not just government. Citizens that are killed like that, we want to know what happened. Princess Cooper, you're talking about Princess Cooper. You said Alice is a medical person here. That can be, tuberculosis. Come on now. Even if that, the missing men, the 3 missing men, the reason we conduct investigation is not always to put people in jail, but also to exonerate. So if you care about President Weah's reputation in this, that will probably exonerate him when he becomes that no suspicion. So the reason we are talking about this investigation is not to implicate people, it's also to exonerate.
Yeah, Dennis, can I say something quick on this? I think we are being a little bit focused maybe in the wrong way, because when we focus on just the auditors, look, I was in Liberia from 2006 to 2011, and I was in Liberia also from 2016 to 2019, and then I followed Liberia issue throughout. When it comes to just ordinary people, maybe even in the rural area, getting on Moloba and going missing. I mean, or girlfriend or boyfriend killing somebody in Banga because they were jealous, cut the woman throat or do. I mean, it's just rampant all over the country. And in my mind, I don't have a crystal ball to look at it, but the only reason why I believe people doing that and think human lives got no value is because those who kill on the mass scale in the 90s have never been held accountable. So people just don't feel that human life got value. They just believe they can do anything in that country. I mean, people can, those of us who just go walk, ride motorbike many times, we hear kids say, I was in Liberia recently, I was in a Lapa Bido or Kobosha to Sodom or GB. And motorbike rider, you play, I'll kill you. Nothing will come out of it. They say this to each other.
But that's exactly the point. We're just using the auditors, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Where we fail to hold those who kill on mass scale in the 90s accountable. That's even the reason.
But we can also attribute it to the lack of resources when it comes to the Liberia National Police and investigators.
Both
they're underfunded. That's one of the issues. Yeah.
And the CDC administration.
But that is by design.
But Dennis, I may add also, because of the low salary in the police, I was teaching at Stella Maris when they tried to recruit police officers. They have to drop the standard to 9th grade graduate to go in the police. That's the only way we could find people to go in the police.
Thank you. Because
high school graduate
at one point under George Weah, Presidential Affairs Minister McGill, that ministry alone, the budget was more than the budget for the entire judicial branch. So there are a lot of things to say. So but let me bring in our callers here. We have just 2 callers here. The first is Mr. Flomo Livingston. Flomo, go ahead. You're live.
Yeah, question. Dennis, before I can even go off, you need to mute Albert Norris. He keep interrupting the show. Each and other people talking in it, and then people are not understanding what the other panelists are saying. He continue interrupting. You need to mute him when the other folks speaking. So, I feel today he made up a if any government official will go after any government official, will see. So nothing will happen. The same government did it to Bani Samuka and no related party people went and protest. If they are found guilty, they will go to the court. If they are found guilty, they will serve the time every month and nothing will happen. Okay, nobody is above the law. When it comes to the money, I tell you, JNB should start today. I mean, when you get it found, then you start the investigation. All the models have been going through. They joined with our administration. Too much money, like nothing is coming from it. They always start and no conclusion. The police say they always start. Like for example, the guy just went through the crowd and murder people. Suddenly arrest the man. We don't know what's going on. The police they are not briefing the public about what was the cause. I think I would just go back, people will just forget, and they will stop. That's what the Georgia government been doing. They haven't come to no conclusion. The two selected judges, like for example, Kola Musu Scott, suddenly arrested her. They just keep her in jail. They are not going through the full process. And you don't see no related parties for protesting. So when the city happen to this ongoing government, no CDC men should go protest. Because I'm telling you, I mean, JNB, that is create more prison in Patara, so they can most of the people there. Nobody they are above the law. If they are found guilty, they will go to jail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Aliyu Kamara.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dennis John, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to see Caleb on tonight. I don't know if his article was involuntary or voluntary, but I'm glad he has now had the strength to come out and show face. You know, it can really be painful, but the college.
Go to the topic for tonight, Ali.
Never on sabbatical.
Why you trying to help Caleb, my man?
I was never on sabbatical. I told you.
Caleb got pepper in your eye.
No, I was getting ready for parent-teacher conference as a teacher, so I was preparing and I took my time off.
Ali, please finish. We have more callers here.
Okay. But anyway, let me just say, Joseph Burger's mission right now, one, the roads, so that we can have trade between the counties. Number two, police security, cleaning the city. These are things that are immediately on his agenda. You know, the police are being corrupted. They've been turned into a partisan police. Joseph Burger is focusing on augmenting the strength of the police, increasing the manpower of the police, and giving them logistics to do the job. Get the country back on track, you know, economically, and the rule of law enforced. And then the rest of the other thing. And to answer your question, Dennis, yes, Joseph Burger will open the case on these killings. Remember, guys, every government comes and they do theirs and they leave the documents on file. The next government comes, government is continually. So Joseph Burger, the most fresh crimes that have been committed, Joseph Burger will attack those, and not to say that he's not going to attack those that happen under the Ellen Johnson administration. So will Joseph Burger audit the government, the CDC-led government? That is a matter of must. Is going to happen. I don't think it's even the choice of Joseph Burger, because there are people in the Joseph Burger camp right now who are willing to start. John Molu has clearly encouraged us that auditing the CDC-led government is so simple and it wouldn't even take much to do it. You have Boma Kamara, who also has vowed to audit the CDC and so on and so forth. So it will be a very, very easy thing. War and economic crime, let me assure you that if you bring a paper to Joseph Yuma Burger at the executive mansion that says war and economic crime, Joseph Burger will sign it. But I agree with my boy, with Jerome Gilman, Joseph Burger cannot, by structure of law, establish a court, and there's no executive order that can establish a court. against the tribal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're speaking like an insider and you got no information, Ali.
Executive order can bypass any constitutional matter.
Dr.
That's
Moluba.
the reason why they gave that to the president. Don't mislead the audience.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Yaka.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. About the auditing.
Yeah.
To avoid statutes of limitation, auditing should be done annually and should be mandatory and not at the discretion of the power that be. Thank you.
Thank you. Emmanuel Soman, you're alive.
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody, boys, and how everybody doing today on the show?
Great. Go ahead, sir. You're live.
Okay, so I just want to share light on 2 or 3 things. First of all,
Please make it 2 things.
Guys, all right, the three guys that died. So, in Liberia, one of the major problems we face in Liberia, everybody's a professional. Everybody knows everything. So I listened to the Justice Minister when he appeared before the Senate. Immediately that stuff happened, they dispatched police there. Community we also agreed that yes, police persons were there. When they discovered the ballot, because the ballot was underwater for some time, they couldn't really identify the ballot. So one of the suggestions came up to was to do a DNA test. The Justice Minister said that they told the family, because the family, every time they asked to identify the ballot, they said no, the ballot does not look at us, it does not resemble us. So the Justice Minister said, we're going to do a DNA test. We can take a sample from each of the ballot and we can swap any of the family member, maybe the auntie, the uncle, we will know who the ballot related to. They said no, according to them, according to the family. I'm thinking about what the Justice Minister said in the Senate. The family said that they went to a waste doctor, and the waste doctor told them that the guys are still alive. So the only thing they can do Sasewu. And the Justice Minister said, no, under our law, Sasewu is not allowed. And that's how the family, the guests decided not to do it. That's where that case went. With Prince Akopa, this is what I already found out here. It is true that Liberia or Liberians are suffering from chronic illiteracy. Anything happen in the country, the girl is not a government employee. She has no connection with the government. That girl fell and died, which is normal that things can happen. I have seen someone fell and die in my person before. The guy just ate with us. Went to the toilet and came out. We saw the man in the car with foam coming above. That guy was gone. So the border pathologist, the man did a last sample of what happened, what killed the girl. But according to people around, they say the girl was official and blah, blah, blah. So what's the essence of the government wanting to kill Princess Cooper when she doesn't work in government? Father don't work in government. Nobody work in government. After the audit, we welcome the audit.
Thank you.
Should be of course. Finally, we work on the audit because we want to know how government money was spent. Let us not forget the Brandon Samuka audit. It was during the investigation. It was during the early justice service administration.
We taking my point, my man.
Plus, we are government. Brandon Samuka audit. It was in the CDC that started. Brandon Samuka investigation started any time. And Joseph Baga should understand, and he knows that the TRC under the United Party is after 240 United Party government officials. You should also conclude the investigation, not just waste on few people. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you know why we did not act on those indictments?
According to our order, there are investigations going by the GC. It's the GC that has the authority to conduct all the investigations. So
I mean, with the 200 plus indictment, did the WIA government act on them? Why they never did?
Well, some of them are very restitution. Some of them went to court. In Liberia, it is that when government leaves, a lot of stuff can happen. Sometimes you put in the chase behind documents because you can't just carry someone to court with any evidence. The government has to prove the case, and the case will take long.
So the government couldn't prove the case.
No, the government still fighting the case.
Thank you.
In court.
Thank you.
More cases in court.
Thank you. Let me take our last caller here, Mr. Colley.
Yeah, good evening to all.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Doing only to all the panelists, my brothers and sisters on the show. Great show, nice. But we all need to be fair to ourselves, because the same thing that you're all talking regarding, nitpicking or being selective in, running judgment. I think everybody, the deaths that occur regarding Ellen time and George Weah time, all those cases should be, on the floor. Shouldn't be selective in, during this time we'll not do it, and this time we'll not do it. Look at during the election, look at what happened in Foya. And, those things were recorded. People saw it live. It was very sickening, to see those people. So some of those people need to bear the consequences. It's good for them to go to jail time to go. And we say, Liberians are still traumatized. You hearing Prince Johnson and all talking those kind of things. Look at the election time. You got Bob Naked declaring themselves to be, what kind of rescue soldier. Look at the kind of message that is sending to, the world.
What did Bob Naked do wrong?
What?
What did he do wrong?
Those kind of people are being pressured for presenting themselves. It puts fear into people on what will happen. The Liberian people are afraid because when they see those people there, showing themselves out, they reflect on the past. Only they kill a lot of people in our Liberian crisis.
Thank you. So he shouldn't talk. He shouldn't preach. You got a meta evangelist.
I'm not saying he shouldn't preach. He was declaring himself what you call rescue soldier.
Right.
In our politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're looking at. Look at people coming out. A lot of people will be afraid. No, you can go in the church and do your preaching, but being rescue soldier, that's just the wrong messenger to be on the floor.
Thank you.
Because you look at the past of what the men have done.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
all right.
That will be our last caller for the night. Time is so fast spent. I don't want to keep you guys and ladies beyond how long you can be here. So we're going to conclude tonight. You can make your point and close at the same time, starting with Evis.
All right. Thank you, Mr. John. I just want to respond to Flomo Livingston. I know he's an avid listener to the platform, like myself. I think when he was talking about me making veiled threats, like I said, I never made any veiled threats. I said when it comes to prosecutor discretion, we want to see what Boyka is going to do. Is he going to, put into consideration that the country is divided and not going after some of these people? There will be some, repercussions. That's for him to decide, and his Minister of Justice. But secondly, when he said that the UP people didn't do anything when Brownie Samuka was convicted, it's not true. The Zoos in Lofa County, they sat on the bridge. They protested. They stopped the free movement of traffic, through that corridor. So people were actually being, violent. People were stopping the free movement of people, and they were daring people to cross that road, or else they would be killed. People were even harmed on the road.
You were Unity Party people, the people that stopped.
Those are people who supported Brownie Samuka. Brownie Samuka ran on the UP ticket and he won. His election. And then let us not forget, when it came to his punishment, President Weah was very magnanimous in his handling of that case.
What's the point in this Brownie Samuka thing?
Flomo Livingston was attacking me. He said that when Brownie Samuka was Joe Weah went after Brownie Samuka and nothing happened. Nobody was angry. Nobody did anything. The point I'm making is that when he was, found guilty, and the Supreme Court, he went to the Supreme Court, and they rejected him from taking his seat. Right. There was an uproar in Lofa County, and people was angry, and people protested.
Yeah, I watched that.
And the last point that I want to make, please let me finish my point.
Those were not UP partisans.
Yes, they were.
No, those are UP partisans who actually went. Please, 1 second. These are people who actually went to the president. And people like Steve Zago, a city senator at the time, went to lobby President Weah to give Brownie Samuka clemency, and the president obliged them and even helped pay some of the money back.
No, they didn't.
So
They
this
didn't
was not a
wage
president
war.
who was trying to witch hunt anybody.
They were
Listen,
not
So
protesting.
the point that
there
I'm
was no
making is
uprising.
what
There was no uprising. There was no war.
nobody's saying there was an uprising. I'm saying there will be, there may be similar a protest. There was a protest,
The protest is good, but you were saying the backlash was
not just a protest, not just a protest, but they stopped the flow of traffic from that corridor, from that road. They said if they were on the road, nobody can go there, and that was a main road that people used to go from, I think, from Lofa to Bon County or something like that, and they stopped that. They stopped the flow of movement. So they in essence, that was a uprising in a way, So the last point I'm making before I close, President Weah was magnanimous to Brownie Samuka, and the investigation started on the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. At the end of the day, President Weah didn't have to do anything, but he offered to pay some of the money, and then have Brownie Samuka restitute the rest of the money. He didn't go out and witch hunting. This was an investigation started by the government that he worked in. So just to clarify for Flomo Livingston and make that clarification. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. John.
Yeah, you do your closing. You burned 2 minutes on that Brownie Samuka issue. So please close.
Okay. Yeah, my closing is that, look, we're all Liberians. Nobody is hoping for war. Nobody is hoping for, any kind of conflict in our country. But when people are making statements, that they would put George Weah and his ministers in jail, the country is almost evenly.
Now your business beginning, Alice. Yeah, man. You worry about George Weah. This man is a millionaire. Let him go.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried only. Hold on now. You give me time to close. I'm not worried only about George. I'm not worried only about George Weah. Just how we sit here and we say, "Oh, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a billionaire." Let him go to court. But you have people who are diehard supporters of Donald Trump. God forbid today or tomorrow if you get convicted, you think the United States government have, the stuff to put him in jail without thinking about the repercussions of what I mean, you guys saying it like that. That's the point. That's what we're waiting to see. There are people who are killing in this country, committing mass murder. People going on killing spree because they feel somebody is treating Donald Trump. Donald Trump said something and people go and act on it. The point that I'm making is there are people who are strong supporters of President Weah. You have to put that into consideration. And if you don't, there's a 50-50 chance nothing can happen at all. And there's another 50% chance that people can uprise and you can have a conflict in the country. So I'm just giving that food for thought. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if you don't use discretion in your prosecution, you might face the consequences. At the end of the day, that's the only point that I'm making.
Are you going to be a part of the uprising?
Right.
Alice, you're closing.
Of course.
I'm kind of taking it back with Elvis' statements. So you want to tell us we should have no law and order? There should be no justice because people who are perpetrators, they got people following them? That is absurd. I've never seen this kind of argument before. People can have a lot of followers. If they did something wrong, the law has to take its course. This is why Liberia is still backward after so many years of fighting war. For the simple reason, because there is no justice. People are afraid because warlords got money, they got power. Not that they don't want to. Not that Liberia people don't want to have justice, but because they are afraid. And the same statements you make it tonight, sitting over here, that this person got followers, there could be uprising, there could be this. This is why we don't have peace in the country. This is really heartbreaking. You see, our country went through so much. The people that cause all the problems, if they have some form of fairness in court to either exonerate themselves or get punishment for what they have done, the country will move forward. In the absence of that, we'll just be dancing a cycle. And if people like you will come on the platform and instill fear in the Liberian people, same thing why they elected Charles Taylor. If people don't elect him, there could be war. This is the war uprising. That's why Liberia cannot make progress. I don't think it's fair to the Liberian people. We need justice, no matter what, no matter who is involved. Donald Trump went to court recently. Donald Trump took people to the Capitol building January 6th. People thought the country was going to perish. But what happened? Some of them got arrested. They went to court and they are serving time. What have they done? You can't look at somebody to be or kind of mountain that nobody can, nobody is untouchable. If you break the law, you have to be punished. And until we can do that in Liberia, there will be no peace.
Thank you, Alice.
On the line of Princess Cooper, somebody call and say Princess Cooper was sick and blah, blah, blah. Well, forget about the sickness. Princess Cooper was found in somebody's yard. What happened to the person? Who allowed the person to leave the country? This is the kind of lapses we're talking about. I'm really getting, it's too emotional. But anyway, I'm done, Dennis. Thank you for the show.
Thank you. Thomas, you're closing.
Well, for me, I would say to the JNB government, definitely do assess what you're taking over, the decision as to whether it will be a whole of government audit, it will be whether financial, it will be compliance, it will be forensic. That decision is left with you, but clearly assess what you are taking over to establish a baseline, because you will easily fall in the trap of what we have fell in. 6 years down the line, you'll be thinking, what progress have I made? And you'll be very confused as to where you started. And it should not only be even an audit on the financial side. Do a review or do an evaluation of the policy environment, the programs that will be implemented, evaluate everything and establish benchmarks before you move forward. On the issue of the War and Economic Crimes Code, I would say let them pursue it. Sierra Leone did it at the very beginning. They've moved forward. It's no longer part of their policy debate, and they are focused on development moving forward. If we are going to do it, let's do it and move forward. And the point that Alice made was something I wanted to talk about. When it comes to these deaths, and then we start to clarify them. These are government-related deaths, and let's focus on them. Every life is important. Whether the person was working in government or not, every single life of a Liberian is important. If anybody to be able to pay attention to it. Now, say let's only focus on the auditors and forget about Princess Cooper, right? She was invited in somebody's yard, like she said. If anybody was involved in it, that person should be prosecuted. The last point I want to make is on this issue of the closeness of the margin in terms of the election. And the CDC is using this for a couple of purposes. One of the narratives that is coming out is that the CDC should be included in the government. The pro-tem made that point because the results are very close. It was very tight. Therefore, it should be a government of inclusion, as if we are in Israel, where they go and have this coalition election and then a government of national inclusion. You have to include us in the government because it was 50-50. The other thing is that don't audit us, don't come behind us, don't do anything to us because it's very tight. And we know that President Weah took state resources according to the EU. He violated all campaign financing laws and wasted money in the villages for people to vote for him. Then he's now using that number as a bargaining chip. Don't touch me. There are people following me. He would have not gotten that number if he did not use our state resources to get that vote. So I think that those votes should not be used as a basis to protect himself or to bargain for entering the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gonglo.
Dennis, I will restate my statement from the beginning. I think this is a moment for reset in Liberia. We missed that opportunity in 2006, and this is another moment here. And like I like to quote Ambassador Bwaka on this, when he said in 2017, during the campaign, that we squander lots of opportunities. I think this is a moment that he can rescue himself on this. That, hey, we went through a competitive process and there were issues put fought by different political parties, different candidates. Take, for example, Councillor Gonglo. He put rule of law as number one, sweeping corruption. Waka wants to fight corruption. Good. He should do everything that is going to be inclusive, encompassing everything, starting from the
You
past
agree with
18
Mohammed?
years.
Yeah,
Past 18 years. I think we should start from the past 18 years to present, to look at. There are government officials who have acquired wealth in our country. If we leave them untouched, they are going to use that same wealth in different electoral cycle to disadvantage other competitors. So those who going against them will be competing not on the level playing field. And I don't want to start calling names, but there are government officials with big oil palm farm in Liberia that the only way they never had that until the serving government. We can ask them to produce documentation how they got this thing. Somebody got 500 acres of land. I know one minister that got 1,000 acres of land because I want to buy land in Chile. He alone got 1,000 acres of land. And he got oil palm, he got this, he got that. And he was just a minister, I think, for 3 years or so.
Thank you.
There's so much there. We need to restart, to reset this. And then, so Bwaka can be seen at his age, he wants to leave a legacy. And that legacy should be, oh, we have this 80-year-old man who came and actually shook the table. He gave us a shock, and we're starting the country new. And I think that's a hurdle he should pass. Let him forget about all the other things people talking. Go for the War Crown Code. Within the first 100 days, start a debate on that. Go commission, set a commission of inquiry to look into then to code Dennis, mysterious death, and go after corruption. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
Mr. Gaiman.
Yeah, thank you to our panelists here. When we're talking about investigation, I think Ms. Welly talked about the fresh crime that were committed that were not investigated. It would go by her model. The gruesome death in Lofa, in Foya, would be a great place to start. The killing in Nimba is also another place. The gruesome death on the Somalia highway during the election, these are all crimes that need to be investigated. And the reason I want to agree with Mr. Calabo here is, for instance, John Molu and the successive auditors that came indicted someone like Amara Conant, who is now pushing for audits and prosecution. And he has been indicted by the auditors. He used some of that wealth to come back and buy, someone talk about buy, I think it was Janet that talked about buying themselves right back into power.
Thank you.
Somebody said they used that money to buy themselves the ill-gotten wealth. Those who stole money come back and buy themselves right back into power. Now tell me, for a man who has been indicted, okay, by a due process, to sit as a juror, okay, to convict someone else, these are the things we are.
Which due process, Mr. You mean went to court and was?
The auditor, the audit said that this man was found there were $15 million from the Japanese government that came that could not be accounted for, and he admitted to taking a back kick for the oil deals that were done. All of these things were all crimes that were committed, for which the auditor indicted him. So here he is, came back, got back into office, and now he is now going to serve as potential juror in the Senate to persecute other folks. It makes no sense. So what I'm saying here is, if you want to do the persecution thing, which I don't think it would help the incoming president, because it would take too long. This may take 2-3 years to investigate and persecute people. Will he leave the country undone just for auditing? We welcome that, but to be very frank with you, the president will be headed into a rabbit hole.
Thank you. So has been the only one on the panel now who has been investigated by the audited by the Fed. What do you think? What do you think Amara should do is if he's being investigated or is being audited?
No, he has been audited already.
Oh,
It's
okay.
done.
Just pick up those documents, act on them. That's what you mean. Thank you, Mr. Nangbi.
But Dennis, quickly, that point is making. Let me just say this: that's a problem with our system. The fact that no action was taken after 5 years is moot. You can't convert it in court. So you have to have commission inquiry that bring out different things. You can't. GSC has lost authority over those who serve in Sali government because it's been more than 5 years.
And if you go to that, you will not win the case. Mr. Nabe.
Thank you, Dennis. I think great show tonight. Thank you to my colleagues here. Are quite, you brought in my perspective tonight on several things. I said this. We all talk about sovereignty. We have a sovereign government, and yet we continue to refuse to do those things that are expected of a sovereign government. The international community has to come and tell us, do this. Even when we know it is the right thing to do, we refuse to do so. And then when they usurp our sovereignty, and then we come back and complain. Throughout the world, when a government leaves office, the incoming government is expected to audit that government. That is a giving. It is a giving. And it's not witch hunting. So we need to bring back dignity into government by doing the right thing. We all know what best practice is, or the best practices are. So we have a lot of expectation of this government. There's a reason why the people choose this government over the other. We expect them to get out there and stop looking for a free pass because they're already crying foul. Oh, you didn't do it with this other government. No. You made promises to us on the campaign trail. Some of those included the prosecution of war criminals in Liberia. You indicated that you will abide by the recommendations of the TRC. Whatever those promises were, we expect you to live up to those promises. So tonight, I believe this debate is going to reiterate the obvious. This government is expected to audit the outgoing government. This is how we will introduce accountability in government. If this government does that, obviously the incoming government, those who were serving this government will know that there is an audit that's going to come at the end of my tenure. And therefore, they will begin to be accountable to the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif.
Thank you, Dennis. It's been a great show. Thanks, Delvey, and thanks everyone else. I listened to Jerome. He picks his targets very deliberate. So he's deliberate in calling out just Americana of all the people, all the public servants that served the Sirleaf administration. I find it curious that he points to just Americana. There was several ministers of finance who served during that era, but he never called any of them. Mr. Corner has said that somewhere else that he has all his report. In fact, he went on to say that everything before he left, he was able to save everything on cloud. So he has his, all of his reports, he said. They tried to, when George Weah came into office, so one of the things that they tried to do was to target just Americana of all the ministers. And it failed. It failed for the very reason that I said one time that, this was just, a witch hunt. They went down the tribal route. And it didn't
Oh
work.
my God! Don't go there. Don't even start that. Don't even start that.
Excuse me.
Wow.
Excuse me. It didn't work, and it's not going to work if you go down that route. So what we're talking tonight is that Joseph Boakai should look at the procedures and that George Weah used to audit his government. They're going to find that George Weah did not conduct any audit. George Weah did not declare his asset. If he declared his asset, that was in secret. That's not good enough, or that's not good at all. We didn't see
Change
it.
the law. Change the
By
law.
his own admission, George Weah said he was broke. He told the United States government that he was broke. How is a broke man, a poor man, get into office and becomes one of the richest men in Africa? So this is the real issue. And that is the issue that needs to be a part of any kind of investigation and inquiry into financial matters. Dennis, as we sit here talk about disappearances, mysterious disappearances, as you said, look, we forget about the rural counties. A guy in Grand Jita, election magistrate last year, or maybe 2 years ago, Alfred Donner, was killed somewhere in the forest, and his body was discovered somewhere in Grand Jita.
That's a lie. That's not even true.
Alfred Donner is his name. Alfred Donner is his name.
Did they discover his body?
This guy is.
That's what I'm saying. He's lying. And Mr. Jai is not calling him to order, but
They never discovered his body up to this time.
Alfred Donner is his name.
But they never discovered his body, Mohammed.
And so this happened in Grand Jita, and that has never been investigated by.
No, but they never discovered the body.
This has never been investigated by this incompetent administration, and so that's the issue. Dennis, you called us here one time. I don't know if you remember. We talked about ritualistic killings, and you play a recording from Ellen Corcoran. You remember that show? Ellen Corcoran name dropped Serena Cephas, a legend. It's linking Serena Cephas with ritualistic practices. That was never investigated. It was never investigated by George Weah. And these are the kind of things that I'm interested in. When you're looking at government activities, these things need to be looked at. You had a bunch of criminals who were running the country, a cartel, gangs, people who believed that lives didn't matter. And that's the real serious issue that we're talking about. Liberia was becoming a failed state. So thank God now, we're probably going to turn a new leaf. We're going to go away from the criminals and gangsters. Now we're turning a new leaf to the new Liberia that we all hope to see, to live in freely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alfred Donner died on a sick bush. That's when he died. Nobody killed him.
Tabina, go ahead. You'll be the last. Tabina, we can hear you.
She's muted.
You unmuted yourself, but we're still not hearing you.
Maybe she's using earpiece.
Using the earpiece.
All right. Unfortunately, we're not being able to hear Tabina. I want to thank you all for the show tonight. I want to thank our viewers and even those who will watch later. Tabina, can you say something now? Unmute yourself, please.
I think tonight was bad for Mohammed.
All right, we can hear you now.
He just kept getting his facts wrong.
Okay, so it was a good show, as always. I agree with everybody. We should audit. I do not agree with the 18 years audit, 12 years. I think we should narrow it. Yeah, you can pick a little bit from, previous, depending on what you find, in the George Weah government, you can go back a little bit. But to audit for 18 years, I don't think the country has the resources. They don't have the bandwidth to do that. It would take a lot of time, a lot of years to do that. And so what are you trying? You got to look at your objective. What are you trying to accomplish? And so I think they should, they have the Molu there, Mr. Molu, whoever else. I'm sure they know best. giving us the playground. They'll figure it out. But before the audit, I'm hoping that they will do a detailed risk assessment, because the risk assessment is very important. It will identify those key problematic areas before they can go audit instead of just jumping to audit. So like I said, I think today I was hoping that they would have had somebody who's well versed with risk, a risk officer, not just the chief of audit, but somebody who's been practicing risk, managing risk, advising leadership on risk on that team, because you want to look at the entire risk in the entire environment or the landscape, what is important now. And then based on your risk assessment, you can identify to say, okay, this is my high risk, my low risk, whatever is medium risk, and then target those different agencies. Put someone on a year plan, put them on a next year plan. You can't audit the whole country. You'll be there for until Christ come. But at least those key areas, based on your risk assessment, you can decide which way to go. But we'll be following to see how things will go. And always have no worries. If your government were doing the right thing, have no worries. You can't trust nobody here. We'll audit your government. Let me feel like brain English. We'll audit your government. And if your government is found guilty, we will direct it to court. We'll direct them whatever we need to direct them to get the money back. Because that taxpayer money, they were custodian and taxpayer money, and they were not to use it the way they felt. They were supposed to use on key projects, used for intended purposes. And if they didn't do it, we're coming for them. And anybody else connected with that, including Kawia, that children place, whatever place she built. We need to look into that and see what we're going to do with it. Maybe another Zogo place to rehab our little brothers and cousins, But that's it for now. Let me not get on my soapbox. You have a good night. Looking forward to the next show.
Thank you.
Now they will get all the president. No.
We want to thank you.
Now we are going to be covered by
Can I put a secret CDC supporter?
Even those who did not, who watched the show, want to say thank you. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we close with our song that says,
a fake LPP member.
Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberia.